How are you, man? You're muted, buddy. Want to start? How you doing, buddy?
Ben, today's the best day of my life, man. How you doing?
Today's the best day of my life because we actually have someone who was one of my dream guests for this year, Jeff. So not to toot your horn too much, but when we started our year, we set a list of our top 5 dream guests, and I had recently read your book, so I included you on that list. So I'll throw it over to you so that you can give the quick 1-minute introduction to who you are, what you do.
Well, number one, I'm honored, so thank you, and pleasure to be here. Simple answer is I started off as an entrepreneur, been an entrepreneur all of my life. Couldn't understand why everything I was building and everything tech wasn't reducing prices. When tech was moving so fast, technology was moving so fast. So I wrote a book called The Price of Tomorrow that described the world we lived in versus the world we should live in, and what would happen as that conflict happen. And that book is everything. If you read it now, it was written 6 years ago, you could see the last 6 years perfectly. You can see the next 6 years perfectly. You can it's a structural change we're going through, and that took me into really learning a lot about Bitcoin, how it could possibly be a change in a structure to a different world. And then now I invest my time on top of that. I run one of the largest venture funds on top of Bitcoin, investing in what's coming.
Amazing. Yeah. So I actually said that yesterday, Keith. I said that we had to look up the date in which you published your book, because I was like, if this was even a few years ago, that all this stuff was spot on. And it was 2020, right?
Yeah. 2020. Yeah, 2019, the pre-release came out, in early 2020, the full release.
Amazing.
So, Ben, I mean, I would love to let you guide this first question, because I know.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So I was saying to Jeff before we started, because I've been a long-time consumer of Jeff's content, and I'm at the point where I'm hitting his natural audience, like crypto nerd people. That's me. So what we're going to try to do is bring you to there with us. So the first thing I want to ask to you is something that I think everyone can feel, Jeff, and that is, why is everything so expensive and yet people are so poor?
Yeah, and again, this is some of the stuff we're going to talk about. Why it's so hard to understand, at least the first time you hear it, is because you live in a world that's always been imagined. You live in a structural world that you're measuring that from that structure, and all of history doesn't have a different version, right? And so your entire world that you believe, capitalism, whether it's capitalism, socialism, all the isms, are from an environment constructed from essentially where money is lent into existence. And so if money is lent into existence, if what you call money is a piece of paper that somebody has a right to lend into existence, and you pay an interest on that, then what do they get out of that? Right. And so that's how money comes into existence. You have a system by which money is lent into existence. That system where money is lent into existence has to keep on increasing what we call money forever. In other words, debt, which is money, has to increase forever. And debt binds us into a debt trap, into a system of essentially slavery, inside that system where prices have to rise. Because if prices went down, then that debt would collapse, and all of the banks who lend you the money and all of the other people who lend would go insolvent, and every single other thing from that system would fail. So we live in that system. We've always lived in that system, and that system has to extract more and more and more and more forever. It has to make prices rise. But here's the thing and why this is so hard to understand is because we're measuring everything. We are inside that system, measuring everything from that system, and it just appears normal. And we don't have a mental map to why is that normal? What would a different normal look like? So, okay, so that's the system you live in. Everybody lives in, if you're measuring from any currency, US dollar. And so just before that, some currencies lose value faster than others. And we look at those other currencies that lose value faster than others and say, how are those people measuring in that currency? Those crazy people. Well, we do the same thing in our currency that's just losing value a little less slowly or a little less quickly. Okay. So it's almost, and so now you have, hold that thought and now insert this thought, which is going to be really hard for you to insert. The natural state of the free market is deflation. Prices must fall. And I'm going to explain that a little more deeply. Why must they fall? Because everything that all new innovation competes with what was there before. So any new entrepreneurial venture, any new idea competes with what was there before. And if it doesn't provide us more value, we're both the creators of the new things and we're the consumers of the new things. And if it doesn't create us more value for us, we don't use it, and it fails in the free market. And then we use the things that create more value for us, and we use them faster and faster and more value and more. And so the output of what I just described has to mean prices fall. Is that fair?
Totally.
Before we go on, let's hold that thought.
And let's I think one thing that'll be super helpful is to provide a specific example. And whatever maybe comes to your mind first.
Okay, I'll give you a specific example.
Cool.
We used to buy calculators. Everybody had a Texas Instrument calculator. And there were all these versions of calculators that were produced and really expensive. And then Apple created a phone that you could have a calculator as an app. And the first calculator cost money. And that company that created the calculator made money from an app that was just digital, just code. And then the next company said, I'm going to create a better one for cheaper, and a better one for cheaper, better one for. Now all calculators are free. You don't use a calculator. You don't pay for a calculator anymore. Your life is enriched by a calculator. Where is the calculator in GDP? It doesn't exist in GDP. It's gone, but you still have the value. You have abundance of calculators, and it's free, right? So your life got better because of the innovative process of people competing to provide you value, and you using the more value. So you don't have to pay for a calculator anymore. You could choose to, but very few people choose to pay for calculators anymore.
Totally.
And so but those examples are everywhere, right? Everywhere. It is what the market is, right? You used to buy a record. You used to buy a CD. You used to buy, and now you see more and more content. You see more and more music, and it costs you less and less all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the world is competitive to provide you value. You use more value, and the output of that is prices fall. So why do some prices fall but other prices rise? And so you can see these inflation maps with government spending, food prices are going up, healthcare prices are going up, insurance prices are going up, anything touching the government, education is going up, and all the free market is going down. But all of those things are measured through the same currency, right? So your TV, you just said another example, you get a better TV every year and it costs less. But even the TV, what would it be valued if the money wasn't broken? The TV would have fallen way faster. All of the things would fall way faster because the prices would have to in a free market. The price. So what does that drive into? And this is where it takes your breath away. We have never lived in a free market. We have no recognition. We have no pattern recognition in our brain of what a free market is. When we say capitalism and say we live in a free market, but capitalism distorts money, it's more like communism. It's crony capitalism.
That'll get a lot of people pissed off there.
But it's true.
Yes.
I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what's true.
No,
right?
I agree.
And we can, and people can yell all they want, but they can say, you can objectively tell yourself, if the natural state of the free market is deflation, and in that market prices fall to the marginal cost of production. You could look this up on Google. You could look this up on, is this true? Would this happen in a free market? And you can guarantee what I said is true, which means we don't live in a free market. We never have. We've always lived in a zero-sum game. And that's what takes your breath away. And that creates this conflict in our minds where we want something to be true, but it's not.
Totally. Yeah. And I went to business school. And so every textbook that I ever read would basically reiterate to me and every other student in there that inflation was natural and needed. So we're not only fighting people's view of their day-to-day life and what's said on their TVs, but like so many people's livelihoods are tied to a system that is inflationary. So how do you break through that when it sounds like you're like, when we talk about these things, it sounds like you're talking about like a fairy tale world that can't possibly exist, because how could that be possible when every textbook says to the contrary?
So that's so it's so. Remember when COVID and all the experts said that this is going to kill everybody, and and everybody needs this to a belief system with the experts reinforcing a belief system creates a belief system that everybody believes, and they do crazy things to support that belief system. How many other things, if that looks like that, look like that in the world? And you can see when that belief system is being challenged by other things that can't be true. Jeffrey Epstein, the wars that are going, how politics looks today, that control system has to look like that, because all of the money that feeds it is coming from theft from you. It has to look like that. And what we think is it's not us, it's somebody else. So there's somebody else that's going to fix it all from a system of theft. So when you just described that, what I went to naturally, because my son's going through university right now, and he's telling me the stories of what money is from his economics class, and he's going back to the teacher, and the teacher doesn't want to hear it. So he says, I have to lie on my exam, right? So I get a good grade. Yep. But I know for sure it's wrong. Now, if money, and this is where it's that you conflate two different things. And if money, so what is money to you, right? And very few people ever ask themselves what money is for them. If money is a debt instrument that's lent into existence, and that's what money is to you, then all of the religious doctrine around economists is true, because if you allow deflation from debt instrument, that money collapses. It's zero. So if money to you is a system of debt, then they're right. But why is that money is a deeper question.
So why is it like that? Where's the starting point for this?
The starting point traces back to the Bank of England funding wars, right? And the Central Bank of England funding wars, and families saying, we'll fund the war and we'll create the debt to conspire with the government to fund the war
in perpetuity.
In perpetuity. And that system of money is still the money we use today around the world. And so nothing's changed.
To drive the point home more, because you mentioned something that I think is something that people could viscerally feel with the Epstein stuff, all of the censorship, control, the desire for more and more of that. And you said that in a system like this, if it was like this, that would be the natural outcome. Could you explain why?
Yeah, because the two systems are completely different, and I think we should dig into the fairy tale part of this too, right? The way what you said too, because it seems like there's no way that could be true. Why is it true? And what could you do to make it true? We should go into a lot more, but first we'll start with you where you just asked. So if the natural state of the free market is deflation, then, and we know that's true, then anything that stops that must not be a free market. It must be a control system. And how does that control system gain more power? It gains more power through fear, control, coercion. It has to, because it's not a free market. Because a free market is the sum of our choices, creating value for other people. So if you lived in a truly global free market, now think about it, I'm going to jump forward a bit. Where AI is going. Right now, my former business, I had 70 engineers, 6 product managers to be able to create technology in the view to the future. And it was back and forth to create great technology. I now can do technology. I can vibe code, even though I don't have a bit of coding experience. I can vibe code things like what I used to build in an instant, idea to execution. If I can do that, it means 8 billion people can do that. What do you think that would do to ideas? They won't all work. Tons of value. Some of them will be just useless ideas. Some of them will be brilliant ideas with no employees to create that value. What would that do to, and if they had no one to be competing with these other companies with all of this cost, what will you use? The thing that gives you more value at less cost, or the thing that costs lots more? You'll use the thing with less more. So we're both the user and the creator of this, and 8 billion people on the planet. Right now, we live in a spot where AI is the worst it will ever be, by far. And that unlocks 8 billion people to be able to provide value to us. That means prices would fall at extraordinary rate, exponential rate in a free market. What does that mean for the market you live in? It means to keep the control system, you have to manipulate money, and you have to tell these people they need this other money, right, to be able to live a good life. And those people will vote for give me more money because all the prices are rising from that system. And so it'll get worse and worse and worse from that system, without them realizing that it's the system itself. It's not a person within the system. It's a system problem that cannot be resolved from the system that creates the problem. Every single problem, and we should do this right now on the podcast. Name a problem that you think can be resolved from a system that requires money to be manipulated. Because if you create more pieces of paper, everything in relation to those pieces of paper have to rise in price.
That's something that we say all the time, is that I think almost every problem is a money problem. And then people typically they don't go to money itself as a concept. They go to the allocation of the current money is usually their first argument of like, if the money was over here, the problem would be solved, et cetera, and so forth. So when you get hit with that, what is your response?
I go back to first principles. Natural state of the free market is deflation. We don't have to be coerced. We use the things that give us more value. There's a massive competitive system to provide each other more value, and everybody wins by it. When you distort that system in favor of a control system, then you have to choose who wins, who loses. And so if you think about the nature of the world today, it's so crazy. We pay taxes on a system, but the taxes are only the top part of the pyramid. The big part of the pyramid is the theft that comes in money that we don't have a vote for. So when we're voting on what new government will give us, but we don't see the bottom part of the pyramid, how much is stolen, what would government look like? Of course it would look like what you expect government to look like today. What it would look like is this these people are my people, or these people are my people, and it would just be a division of everyone, because it's exactly the opposite of a free market. Because remember, it's not from, you shouldn't be measuring inflation from zero. You should be measuring inflation from the productivity rate in the world, which is exponential deflation. Right? In other words, if you did nothing, your life would get better every day. Your life would get better every day because of the sum total of the competitive landscape of the entire global human population working for you, rather than trying to extract from you.
So I think that the natural place people would go to who have won, especially in a capitalistic environment, would be, okay, then what's everyone going to do all day? Sit on the couch and eat bonbons? Like what? How do you keep the churn going?
Okay, so let's investigate that again. First principles. Number one, it doesn't matter for the truth of what I just said.
Totally.
No difference what other people are going to do. So I can imagine a whole bunch of people who control the system. Oh, we're going to create more control so we can give them something to do, right? So we can protect the stupid people, right? So I can imagine a whole bunch of people inside that, but it doesn't matter. It's a crazy question. But the free market always finds value. We always find something new, where there's always going to be problems. And in other words, the calculator app, if you use that example, why would you let the fall to zero? Because what would the calculator manufacturers do?
Fair.
Right? It's crazy. The abundance gained is us freeing our time. That's what technology is supposed to do. That's what our innovation is supposed to do. We are supposed to free our time. So instead of working for 40 or now 80 hours, people toiling away at jobs that are going to be gone anyways. Remember, the jobs are going to be gone anyways. When 8 billion people have the ability to do this, right? It doesn't require all of the jobs. The jobs are already gone because you won't use the company with more jobs.
True, because it won't be as good of a service.
Exactly. So what are you going to do is a crazy question in that. What you want is your time back. What you want is, instead of the time theft of your labor going into money that's being devalued, so you're constantly stuck on a hamster wheel forever and ever and ever, you want your time to be valued so you can spend it with people and things you love, and come up with ideas to be able to serve humanity rather than be in this control system.
No, that makes sense to me. Keith, where do you want to go from that? I think that's some decent foundational stuff there.
I think that's a perfect foundational piece of looking at all of this. And so I guess the natural question comes, if this system is not the system, if the natural state of the free market is deflation, and yet we're stuck in this inflationary system, or are we stuck in this inflationary system, or what would be the alternative to continuing to participate in the world as we see it today?
Yeah, and this is where I spent a lot of time. So you can imagine how much work I did inside the existing system to come up to the book, and how these systems were different and what that looked like. I spent a lot of time. Was there any way the existing system could resolve itself from the existing system with all of our energy in that system dividing us from each other faster and faster? And the answer I came up with is no chance. The system problem can't resolve this. So then I investigated various different things that could, or potentially could. And I looked at Bitcoin through that lens. I looked at gold through that lens. I looked at different things through that lens. But I looked at Bitcoin through that lens and said, because if gold could resolve this conflict, then it would have already resolved this conflict. Right? But in 5,000 years, we keep going back to the same thing. We've never lived in the world I described. And so I put a higher bar on what I just said, that because I realized what humans would do, they would fall into this trap. And could a new system like Bitcoin resolve this paradox of and what it would have to do is it would have to impose a new system that didn't want to change. It would have to impose a new system that it didn't want to change. And so when I looked at Bitcoin through that lens, I probably spent, and I have spent, about 15,000 hours trying to kill Bitcoin with the same rigor that I was talking about, kind of the system dilemma and this conflict that we're in. So I've spent and so we can let's go through that process, or some of the high points of that process. And maybe what we'll do is we'll go through that process from a lens of humans, right? Of us making decisions in the world, because the world doesn't just happen to us. We have a say, right? We have agency, but we don't know how much agency we have because we fall into these traps. And so I'll use an example in the market for. I used to use a BlackBerry phone. Remember when BlackBerry was the be all end all and everything else? I loved the buttons. And
That was my first phone.
Type on the buttons and everything else. And Apple was 3 years in development of this other phone, that when it came out, I said, no way I'll ever use it. It's a toy compared to my buttons. And the minute it was put in my hand, never went back, right? BlackBerry died, Apple changed. So we don't see how our changes, that what we once didn't know, that then know, change the world and impact other people. So what we do feeds forward. Our time actually counts a lot more than we think it counts. And so in Bitcoin, going back to that, you have a system where money is debt. You have a different system where money is not debt. You have 21 million cap in Bitcoin, 21 million potential Bitcoin forever. And the way that that's constructed can't be cheated. It's a system designed that I run a node that audits the entire Bitcoin blockchain every 10 minutes. And from running a node, I get to see, I'm a voice in that new system, and there's tens of thousands of those nodes distributed all over the world, that the rules can't change without going through me. And so we have a new fixed money supply where the rules can't change, where the consensus of the network voting for the best interests of the network can't change it. You become a participant of the network if you want to run a node and learn it. And so that decentralized, so there is no CEO of Bitcoin. There's no person who can gain more of Bitcoin. So if you just asked that question, if you had this new thing that had never existed before, that was really, it would be confusing because it had never existed before. It would impose, and if it stayed decentralized and secure, so if no one could co-opt it and it stayed decentralized and secure, what would that new thing measure? And you could say if it stayed decentralized and secure, that's important, right? What would that new thing measure? Because you couldn't increase the monetary units, you couldn't go past 21 million, that new thing would measure the natural state of the free market perfectly. Because prices against that new thing over a long term would fall lower and lower and lower. Okay, now let's introduce us as observers to this new thing. Let's the all of us. And so if you'd grown up in this other system of fiat money, and prices always went up, and you were really rich in that system, and you had most of the money, and this new thing ruined that because it just redistributed it, what would you say about this new thing? Right? You would be against it. You'd be very against it.
Scam.
But
Yeah, totally.
Scam, everything. It's bad for the climate. It's this. Quantum's going to kill it. A million different things you would say because you couldn't allow it to work. And so now ask, where do most people get their information? They get their information from that system. So they're part of this system. The experts are telling them to not look into this new system, and all of the money and all of the control is against this new system because it would redistribute it around the world, and they would and those people would and so it would, the vast majority of humanity would be too scared to look at Bitcoin because they would be stuck in the system, and they would always think there's somebody else, there's some boogeyman that this is going to break, and it's just a scam. Okay, so vast majority of 8 billion of us. There'd be a smaller subset of that would look at this system and say it can't do what I want, right? And so the way that Bitcoin works is it's a protocol. So I'm going to pause there. They would see it as a technology. The smaller subset of people, or those early people on Bitcoin, got rich. And I'm in the K-shaped economy, and I can't get rich. So I'm going to get rich on Ethereum, Solana. I'm going to be the new, right? And they would see Bitcoin as a technology, and they would, and then there would be all of these scams, hundreds of thousands of new coins, all trying to get rich quick on a new system, because they were really measuring in pieces of paper. Not a structural change. They just wanted to have more pieces of paper, and they saw other people getting rich, and everybody would race. Tons of people would race into that. You'd have these blow ups and everything else. And for the first group of people, they would look at the second group of people going, "Oh my God, we were right all along." Right? Its whole space is a scam, right? The Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, and it would be more and more confusing to not look deeper, because it would just be noise. There'd be Trump coin, there'd be Milena coin, there'd be all of this things. Everything would feel like a scam. And from the bulk of you could even argue that the scams might even be helped along by the control system to conflate what was really happening. You could argue that too. Then there would be another group of people who would see Bitcoin, they would have gone a little bit deeper in Bitcoin, and they would say it's a store of value. And it's the best store of value that's ever existed, because your money can't be stolen if you're part of the network and everything else. And source, it's a store of value. And from that group of people, they never would ask themselves, what is money? And why does money need a store of value? Because money's always needed a store of value underneath it, like gold, because money's always been manipulated. And then what happens because money is manipulated is the store of value gets centralized, and then it breaks. And so then there'd be another group of people that would see it as a protocol. And a protocol, is like the internet, is winner take all. There's not a second protocol. Anybody can access the internet anywhere in the world with a VPN, and they can access the entire internet. And so it's an open distributed system that anybody can access. But protocols come in layers, and they add more functionality in layers, and they give more and more value in layers. And so these four broad groups of people would all be observing the world, and it would be reflecting back exactly what they believed. I believe it's a protocol. I believe that it's emerging in layers. It's a new internet. It's the new internet bounded by energy that is adding more and more functionality. And why people can't see what's happening is because they're measuring it from outside of what's happening. They're in the noise, unable to see what's actually happening. And so when I travel to Africa, South America, and see circular economies, when I see what the beautiful things that are happening inside this, and all of the abundance and all of the acceleration, like the internet before, but in service of all of us, I even against there would only be a very few amount of people in relation to 8 billion people that would see it like I do. So it would feel like, if you were outside of this, it would feel like the noise, everything was noise, because it was everyone observing this new thing without pattern recognition of what it would look like from their various standpoints, and it would reflect back to them. So it would feel like noise. What it is to me is this change in the world that is imposing a new system in the world where all prices fall and we live in the first global free market that's ever existed. Now, against that, you have to say, if that's true, then every attack in the world is going to try to break it, and that's also true.
A couple things I want to touch on here. So you're saying that Bitcoin is a protocol, and correct me here. Bitcoin is a protocol that allows anyone to access money, sound money, deflationary money.
And so instead of saying deflationary money,
Okay.
say stable money that measures deflation.
Okay.
Right. So deflation is the output of a free market, right? If the money is stable, that's what you would see. If the money is unstable, then you see inflation.
Love it. And Bitcoin is a protocol that allows people to have access to that in a very similar way that the internet is a set of protocols that allow people to access information. Is that a
Yes.
fair? Okay.
Exactly fair. Now the internet, but today the internet has largely been consolidated, right? So what ends up happening is if your voice is against the system, you get shut off. When you do KYC at a bank, and then you try to get your money out of the bank, or you might not know what's going to happen in the US. It's going to happen in the US. Look at different countries where somebody is against the dictator, and the control of money and information is in the dictator, and see what happens to the people that stand up to a dictator. And they're always shut off, and their bank accounts are shut off, and it always looks the same. So if money is broken, money is superordinate to laws. So if it didn't look like that, then in the worst money places where money was really broken, the laws would be protecting people, right? So if money is broken, laws get changed to protect the money printers, and that's what you're seeing today, and you're seeing it more and more today. And you have to have something that exists outside of that to protect yourself from what's coming.
And so another thing that I want to make sure we touch on is gold. So have you had the chance to talk to Peter Schiff at all? Has that debate happened yet?
So I haven't. It just he tries to. He's asked to, but he tries to each Bitcoiner. But again, it's just, and I have nothing against him. It's more of a shtick. It's more of a show.
Right.
So how do you get more visibility on the thing you care about? I have nothing against gold, but it worked for 5,000 years as a reasonable store of value, and just like I don't have nothing against horses for transportation, but I don't ride a horse anymore. Right? Something moves on and delivers better value to do the same thing. And so the difference here is a protocol emerges, and as more people use the protocol and it stays decentralized and secure, it can't centralize. So gold, because it centralizes, so in 1933, people held gold, but the government would have gone broke, so they created a new law: you can't hold gold. So they changed the rules of gold. in the U.S. Same thing happened in 1971, where we're going to revalue gold because we don't have enough of it to pay our bills. So we're going to change the rules on the underlying structure. So if what it says is humans will change the rules. And if you have a human in the loop, because something centralizes, you can't move gold around like I can move Bitcoin around. I can spend my Bitcoin anywhere in the world right now in an instant, and nobody can stop me. I can carry it on a plane with words in my head, and nobody can stop me. And I can't do that with a bag of gold, right? Lumbering around and saying, "Oh, I want an ice cream cone, and I'm going to shave off pieces of gold." It doesn't work, right? And I realized it did work. The best thing to hold humans to an anchor. To essentially, it was a proof of work. There's limited gold on there in the work. Proof of work. You have to mine it to hold it to an anchor. So I understand a past analogy of why people like gold, but it didn't work to hold a truthful system in the world.
And the reason for that is because it centralizes, and then the rules around how gold is actually used in the system can be changed.
Exactly.
Whereas with Bitcoin, that's not the case.
But aren't
Not
they?
the case.
Isn't that happening now though?
So this is now, how far down the rabbit hole? How deep do we want to go here, right? And so Ben and Keith, do you know in block size wars in 2017 what happened?
Nope.
No, I do not.
Okay, so this is and again part of 15,000 hours and spending time and being in here for a long time. What happened there is there was something called the Montreal Accord, and all of the big money at that time wanted big blocks in Bitcoin. And why is because you could cram more transactions in the big blocks. But the output of that, when you went against the nodes, so the nodes, people who are running nodes, the output of that would be centralization, because when you really looked at the computer science of that, if you increase the node size, then the cost to run all the transactions, to have an entire blockchain on a node, explodes, and very few people can afford the cost to run the node. So less validators, there's less nodes, and it centralizes. So there was a huge fight in 2017, and the money wanted one thing, and the plebs, the people who the heart and soul of this, essentially said, "Fuck off," right? that my node's not changing. And what it did is it created a hard fork in Bitcoin. And the money said, "We're doing it anyway." And so there, at that time, you would have got one Bitcoin Cash. You would have got one Bitcoin and kept your Bitcoin. You would have got one of each. And so what happened is the money all went to effectively zero, right? Or you could look at the price of it today, and Bitcoin just kept on going. And what it showed is the money never controls Bitcoin. You have one vote if you run one node. Your voice matters. And if you have 1 million Bitcoin, you don't have any more vote than the person who has a hundredth of a Bitcoin. And so it changes the rules dramatically from what the world we've always looked at to a world that is looking different. That the control is in essentially in the intransigent minority that cares about this deeply. So now, but this is now I said why we're going deeper on this. If you were governments today, and you knew you couldn't kill this, that every time you tried, China tried, other governments have tried, you could say, Bitcoin bad for the environment. Is governments trying to stop this? It's only drug money. It's all different ideas to try to stop this, and it's moving around the world at lightning fast pace. It's growing exponentially. It's on a network effect, and it's trying to be coercion. If you couldn't stop it, what would you do? You'd try to co-opt it, right? You try to co-opt it to exactly what you're saying. You'd say, I'm going to regulate the rails onto this. I'm going to get people to not use Bitcoin. I'm going to get them to use a stable coin. I'm going to regulate all of these rails so it's easy to use. And I'm going to attract more and more Bitcoin into centralized custodians, Coinbase, BlackRock, other centralized. I'm going to get them to think they own Bitcoin, but they own an ETF of Bitcoin. And one thing about Bitcoin is people will say, not your keys, not your coins. If you trust your keys to somebody else, it's not your Bitcoin. It's a derivative claim to a Bitcoin. It's a claim to a Bitcoin that you're trusting somebody else. But we're so used to that trust in banks, even though we know banks are, it's a deflationary system that's stealing our money. We're so used to that. They build institutions to protect it. So when we walk in, we feel that they're not stealing our money, but they're stealing our money. And so most people will fall into that trap. And that Bitcoin, what you're saying is the number of Bitcoin will be centralized because a lot of people will use the ETFs as a proxy for Bitcoin and use these centralized exchanges as proxies for Bitcoin. But now just play that forward, and is what is very likely to happen. If the nodes still control Bitcoin, and now there's new tools on top of Bitcoin and different layers that add complete privacy to Bitcoin. So all your transactions completely private, and you can hold Bitcoin privately. And that continues on. And then one day the system that centralizes says you can only use our Bitcoin. What's going to happen? It's going to chain split. And the Bitcoin that I just described, same thing that happened in 2017, will keep going on. And the people that try to control Bitcoin will probably go to zero. Now, if you have your Bitcoin that you think is Bitcoin inside that other system, then you're probably going to zero too.
If that Bitcoin exists in that other system over there, wouldn't that system still have their way of being able to manipulate that version of the Bitcoin?
Yes, but only that version. And so that's what I'm getting at. You live in, so the version of reality you live in right now from a system that is manipulating money is a version of reality that feeds back at you, and it can go on for a long time. Your belief in it gives it power, but Bitcoin is bound by physics. It's bound to energy. It's bound by a system that has no ruler. And so all of this is fighting that system. And so if everybody just said, okay, forget it, we're going to just trust the US dollar derivative of Bitcoin, Bitcoin would fail. And it would centralize, and it would fail. And I think and it's a reasonable expectation from a view that most people have today that that's what's going to happen, because that's always happened in history from any centralized thing underneath money. And we're used to, why do you need an asset? Why do you need something underneath money? Is because you've never been able to trust money. Mm-hmm. Isn't that it's crazy?
Very true.
You couldn't store your money in money, so you had to store your money in something else underneath money because money has always been broken.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin gives us as a different model, a totally different model, and that's why it's so hard to understand. You can store your money in money now, and you can be a node in that network that protects you and everybody else that you know from storing your money in money and spending your money in money, and nobody can do anything about it. Now, they're going to try, but you don't have to play the game. You don't have to play the game at all.
So one of the biggest fighting points that people have for why they wouldn't touch Bitcoin is people will say stuff like this. So from Brojo in the chat says, Bitcoin could be a CIA psyop for all you know. How do you respond to stuff like that?
So if there was a backdoor in it, there isn't a backdoor in it. I run the code. right? And so why would the CIA, if you knew some of the things I know about how the money system works and how many people are trying to break through Bitcoin and how many of that group or NSA and stuff to come to me to try to how is their way, so you would know the the fear versus what this is. I run the code. I run the code myself. I know there's no backdoor. I know the if the CIA did this and the CIA is funded, where does the money come from? Do you see it in the in the balance sheet of the federal government? Where does the money come from for all these black op programs? It comes from this theft. So if why would the CIA create the thing that takes away the CIA? Now, if they did, but it got out of hand, where the community controls it, and they know it's resilient to anything, how could they stop it anyways? So even if it was created by the CIA, today the CIA has no power over it, zero.
Who do you think, if you had to take a guess, do you have any suspicion of who made it?
Even if I did, I would never say.
Okay.
And the reason I would never say is have you ever read the Cypherpunk Manifesto?
I have not.
So read the Cypherpunk Manifesto.
Okay.
And it might say privacy 19, 20 times through the Cypherpunk Manifesto. But essentially what we're talking about is, in a digital world moving faster and faster in exponential technology, unless you had privacy, you were sitting duck of the state as more and more people went into this digital panopticon. So Satoshi today, and this is why I just mentioned that specifically, and why privacy is being built on top of Bitcoin in different layers, like Fediment and such. If Satoshi he could be walking around with us today with more power than most governments.
Mm-hmm.
And how does he have that power? Not through money, not through force, through privacy. And so privacy is going to be critical in the world we're heading into. And not privacy because you're going to do bad things. Privacy because in a free market, you deserve to be able to spend the money that you want on the things that you want and live in a world of abundance without a control system trying to monitor your every move. That's why privacy is going to be important. And so even if I knew, I would never say. I think it's and if you go back to the mailing list, and as Bitcoin was coming into existence, from all of the tries before it. So if you look at the history before Bitcoin, and Bcash and Xiaomi eCash and all of these things that tried, failed, fails. A lot of people on that mailing list met untimely deaths. Like if you did an insurance, if you said, is this number of people in this small group of people, would they meet this many deaths? The answer would be no, right? And so what that means is as Bitcoin was emerging and a bunch of these people were fighting against state control, then there would be a lot of power trying to stop that. And I think that's still true today. So I kind of.
Keith, you gonna ask the question?
Yeah. So Jeff, I'm gonna be honest. I've got a few different questions to try to attack Bitcoin that I'd love to try to get through with you. Something also to continue down the logic of the CIA situation, because I do want to double down and triple down on this. Someone in the chat mentioned this concept of leader of Gen Z said they still have power over it because of the Satoshi wallet. If Satoshi sells, it's all over for Bitcoin. So two things before.
Okay, you asked, but I love this.
Could CIA have, for one, created this and still have the Satoshi wallet? And two, could their motivations have been to get people to actually adopt the technology, because this is what people say, adopt this technology, but then get people to use the other versions of it that you say are more of the scam of the old system, right? So yeah.
So what would happen if Satoshi wallets, the first ones that were mined into existence, or the mined Bitcoin, and the creator of this has about 1 million Bitcoin. And those million Bitcoin, you can see the addresses, and they haven't moved in the entire time of Bitcoin. So nothing's moved. So now let's ask ourselves, what would happen if they moved, right? So let's say 1 million Bitcoin move tomorrow, and then there's Satoshi wallet. That would likely cause a price collapse in Bitcoin really quickly, but it wouldn't change a thing on the network. It wouldn't change a thing on my node. It would change. What it would do is it would create fear in the market. But one of two things has happened. Satoshi is no longer for this, or he's alive and he needs his money, right? Or there's been a quantum attack that's attacked Bitcoin. It'd be one of those three, nothing else. Nothing would change in the network. Every 10 minutes, a new block would be formed. A whole bunch of people would through fear, would panic and sell the protocol for a piece of paper and go right off of what I described, for all prices falling back to zero, to go back to the world that they believe in a piece of paper. And nothing would change on Bitcoin except for price measured in a short term from the piece of paper. And then what would happen after that is more and more people would buy those coins, and it would keep going.
So for the quantum threat, you mentioned that briefly. There was a ton of news yesterday all over Twitter about some release by Google. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that the seriousness of that threat.
Yeah, so it's okay. Again, I spend a lot of time on this. Having a thesis of a venture capital fund building on top of Bitcoin and the decentralization security, you can imagine, because it touches everything. So
totally,
so
you're betting everything on it.
Everything, and I try not to do this from I have a horse in the race, other than the benefit of humanity, where I want my kid, the type of world I want my kids to grow up in, rather than the type of world they grow up in if we have manipulation and money. But I do spend a lot of time thinking about this. I'd have people look at a paper recently released by it's on Bitcoin Lens, bitcoinlens.com, and in it takes a first principle approach on the thing, how we think about quantum versus what actually might be happening. And what they believe is that time is emergent from energy turning into information. But we measure everything through linear time. So we think two states can exist at the same time. And the double slit experiment, we're part of the experiment, right? So when you observe it, it only goes through one slit. So the energy turning that into information is time moving forward. And blockchain, Bitcoin is all of the information states, all the potential states of all the mempool collapsing when Bitcoin is mined and turning one system into information. And it can't go backwards. It can't be two states at once. It's the appearance of believing two things can coexist that you think they can coexist, but when you get to discrete time, they can't coexist. So that'd be one way. If they're right, it means there's never going to be quantum threat to Bitcoin. And why I think they're actually right is when you look at the quantum noise and you actually go deeper into it, every time the quantum says they're going to do something, it still hasn't. I don't think it's still factored two numbers, right? They so early on this, but the logical qubits being able to do this, every time they come up with something that can do this, then behind that they have tons of error correction trying to solve it. And what I think is happening is they're trying to measure, quantum in general field is trying to measure discrete time through something that you can't. Right? So if that's and it's binary. If they're right on that, it changes then there's never going to be a quantum attack on Bitcoin. It can't be. It's impossible for there to be. So now hold that thought and say, what if they're wrong? Right. So that's one thought. And so we should follow that. So we should really investigate that at a first principle level to see, is that true? Is that possible? Because it changes so many other things. But we're used to living in this world where we trust experts that are constantly wrong, right? We think about what happened in COVID, think about Epstein, think about everything else, and we just keep on living in this world that we keep on trusting the experts, and there's always another thing. So if quantum and the money system was broken, and it had tons of money to try to co-opt this, then there might be a bigger chance of a backdoor being implemented into quantum threat, fix it quickly, because quantum risk is real, everybody's going to lose their money. If that was real, think about the risk to your bank account, nuclear codes, everything else that is protected by the same quantum. Okay, but let's put that in a box and say that is one potential that there is never going to be a quantum risk, ever. Bitcoin is the first quantum computer that ever existed, and people should take that down and do their own research on that. Could that be true? Now, let's say there is a quantum risk. The nodes control Bitcoin. And so what you would do is the other piece of work that's happening right now is making things quantum resistance in case that. And there's a whole bunch of Bitcoin improvement protocols that are currently going through the work that people are objectively looking at and reviewing to ensure it would be quantum proof before that happened. And so, like I said, when I run a node, of course, I'm watching the entire landscape of all the noise, all the signal and everything else to what should I do to upgrade my node if I need to upgrade my node at a certain time to make sure that Bitcoin is resistant.
So on that, if there were a quantum threat and you needed the Bitcoin nodes to come together to some consensus around how to prevent Bitcoin from being vulnerable to this quantum threat, could there be the need for another fork, right? Could there be solutions that might fix the problem, but at a cost to either the security of the network or so on and so forth?
So whether it's a soft fork or a hard fork, but the answer is yes. So when I say Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure and that ushers and it imposes a new world, I did not say the same Bitcoin that everybody's using today. The world emerges from our actions, and if you think about the type of people that have the type of knowledge, the type of brain power that's inside this system protecting this, and driving into this, that would create this crazy fight, right? What is Bitcoin to you? What is Bitcoin to me? It would be constantly in motion, right? And at some points, that will cause a chain split. I suspect it. It doesn't have to, but I suspect against the type of control coming and the type of what this would shift our entire world to look like from a belief system over here. It's always looked like to this. I expect that the chaos coming, not just Bitcoin, the chaos coming from people living in an imaginary world where somebody else prints this pieces of paper, and what that's going to do when inflation skyrockets and then you have a deflationary spiral after that, what is going to rip people apart, right? And what that's going to do to them. now you have to use that same analogy on Bitcoin and say what it's going to do over here in a different system. And I expect there to be chain splits. I expect that to be. And if you're on the wrong side of that, if you're on the one that fails, then you could get wiped out.
And it wouldn't necessarily be very easy to know, right? I mean, how would you know if you're on the right side of that or not?
So this is why in Bitcoin, and it's so important that people say don't trust, verify, because we're so used to trusting other people in a system that we know we shouldn't, right? But it keeps on, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and the action is on the agency of the individual to do their own work. And and to do their own work and take their own agency and understand. And if they, and even how I've talked about some of this, there are risks. The risks are us. The risks are what we do, because the future doesn't just come into existence. It comes into existence with us. It doesn't happen to us. We're actually people who create that. So then through that lens, who should you look to in a chaotic environment to who can you learn from? You should look at all different points of view, and you should go deeper on these points of view, and then look back at that person's proof of work and say, have they been consistent? If they were wrong, do they admit where they were wrong? Because today in the world, if you say what most people are viewing in the world, every day somebody changes their mind and they still get so many views, right? This is what's going to happen tomorrow. And people still follow them over and over and over again. It's insane.
That's very true. No, that's fair. And one question from the chat that I want to throw up here too was, unfortunately, my energy and water bill only take pieces of paper. Until payment for energy and supply infrastructure changes, fiat is here to stay. So a lot of people, that's what they go to, right? Is that whenever we talk about this stuff, they're like, okay, great, man, but my bills are in dollars. Like, I got to deal with this. How do you feel that?
Yeah. So my energy prices are coming down because I measure in Bitcoin. Oil prices have come down for the last 7 years, right? All energy prices are coming down because I measure in Bitcoin and I spend in Bitcoin. Now, in any certain year, they could go up because Bitcoin's volatile right now. But if they want to stay in pieces of paper, then they should stay in pieces of paper. But their energy prices are going to go a lot higher, and it's going to get a lot worse. And I can't tell, and I can't tell somebody what they should do. They should do whatever they think they should do. But what I'm saying is, this is a system change that is going to be very hard on your brain. And you have a choice. You're living in a control system, bars on the cell, and you're yelling at the jailer of what those other people should do while you use the money that funds the same thing. And the jail cell door is open, and you can go and learn a little and put a little bit of your energy and time into a different system. If you don't want to, you shouldn't. But if you do, you'll see that energy and time can't be stolen from you, and you probably want to spend more energy and time in it, because it'll feed a different reflection of the world. But if you want to stay inside that, right, then you should stay inside that.
I want to look at some of the, have you ever seen the report that came from the National Bureau of Economic Research around the concentration of the ownership and the mining capacity of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on this a little bit to see how you think about things from that perspective, right? Just so that people can see what this is that I'm referring to here, not necessarily to dive into it in this exact form, but one of the things that they point out in this research is that, the top holders of Bitcoin, right, own a very significant portion of the Bitcoin. Something around 8.5 million Bitcoin is held by individuals, and they take the time to do the work of saying, okay, there's the custodial exchanges, but we're separating that from the actual individual investors. Of that 8.5 million held by individuals, the top 1,000 addresses hold somewhere around 35%. In the top 10,000, around 59% of all of the Bitcoin. Now, in that situation, that would potentially be even higher wealth concentration than what we have in the traditional system today, assuming, by the way, looking forward, Bitcoin is like the monetary standard of the world.
So
how do you think about that?
Yeah. So one system has to start concentrated, Bitcoin. Satoshi owned all the Bitcoin, and it has to distribute. And that's what's happening. It's distributing because it's based on the free market. It has to distribute, because if you're spending more money in Bitcoin, especially if it becomes a protocol, like I said, then to get more value, to get what you want, you're going to have to part with your Bitcoin. The other system you're living in, and that paper is reporting, is it starts decentralized and centralizes more and more, right? So if you think about the world today and the top 20 families who own most of the wealth in the world, you can see it centralizing more and more. That's the media you're looking through. That's Twitter, that's Facebook, that's Google, that's everything you use today is funneling up to the same control structure completely. And it's funneling up to that same monolithic structure because it's stealing this productivity that should flow to you naturally. Bitcoin's the opposite system. It has to decentralize. And so when you think of even mining, I'm on the board of one of the largest previous Bitcoin miners, Core Scientific, who for a long time they said mining is centralizing, it's risking Bitcoin. And I said, it's impossible to centralize because what ends up happening is mining chases low cost energy. And then, so Core Scientific was around all of these energy sites. At one time was low cost energy on the Bitcoin network, 4.5, 5 cents per kilowatt hour. But as Bitcoin mining went to Africa and South America to get 2 cent cheaper power and decentralize, Core Scientific and others had to go to high performance compute. So because somebody who would pay more for the energy, because otherwise they were going to go bankrupt. And so it constantly decentralizes. There's no way to create a monopoly in a free market, because what happens is the money created for the monopoly, the margin, all competitors see the margin and they want that margin, so they compete and they compete it away. So that's what you have, a free market for energy right now that's merging around the world, that is chasing essentially Bitcoin and distributing it, using it heat for other sources to dry food in some cases, to heat greenhouses in some cases, because the excess, the innovation by making something else and Bitcoin makes you more money.
So you've mentioned before the fact that since money is broken, and we're seeing that firsthand, that things will get more and more crazy is the word that I'll throw out there. It's probably easy to understand. What should the individual do? Because I know so many people that watch our stuff, they're worried about their declining purchasing power of their dollar, their potential of even having a job because of AI, and all of these things. There's so much stress out there. Like, what should the individual prepare for?
This is why this is such Ben, that's such a good question, and it's people want to dismiss this because of that fear. They're living in a perilous fear, and it's even the comment that person put up. I can't do this. I need to work more hours to pay my bill that I know. By the way, the bills are going to go way higher. What's about to happen through the war and through everything else? There is going to be an inflationary pulse that is going to be staggering. There's going to be supply chain breakages. It's going to be, and I hate to say this but it's going to be ugly. And then to prevent a complete collapse of the entire system, because the free market is deflation, period, right? To stop that, your money has to be debased at a staggering rate. If you think COVID took prices up, what's coming is going to blow your brain. COVID was just every single time from 2000, even before that, every single impulse of more printed money is an exponential function and each one is bigger by a staggering amount. You can chart it. You can look at it. When people look at the debt, rising debt, doesn't matter which political party, it's the same pattern. It's up, it's straight up, and it has to go straight up. That isn't solvent. That debt is not solvent. It cannot be repaid. It's impossible to repay it. So the only way to repay it is to steal your time and labor at a faster rate. And you're feeding it. And you're scared of feeding it. And you're scared of feeding it. And people are so scared about the AI taking their job, which it will do, because you will use this company that gives you the most value. It's not them doing it, it's you doing it. You have to get out of that system. So you have to learn this new system. This new system takes time. It takes something, because it's against what you believe today, right? And so where do you get a start? Look for people who have been consistent. Look for people. BTC Sessions runs a YouTube channel completely free. You can learn a lot about how do you self-custody, where do you buy, what does this look like. In the US, you could buy from Strike or River, both really great options. But look for people who have been consistent in this and are just no skin in the game. They're trying to teach you to look for yourself, and learn. It's going to get chaotic. The existing system, so the instability isn't coming from Bitcoin. The instability is coming from debt that's already insolvent, that people know is already insolvent, that know the future is going to be more technology and faster productivity, that are choosing to stay in a system that is stealing their energy. That's where the instability is coming from.
So a couple things. One of the things that I could see, it came to me as you were speaking about this. So we talked about the concentration of the ownership of the Bitcoin, but it naturally is going to distribute, right? Because if people are using it, then it actually comes out of their hands back into their hands and out and so on and so forth. So the banks, we've talked about kind of like, well, if the other system, right, is going to try to co-opt this in some way. And now to me, it's becoming a little bit more clear, if that would be the natural flow of how things would go, then the bank might actually try to re-centralize it, right? And in a sense, this is what they're doing with the ETFs. With now they're saying we're going to give you loans off of this Bitcoin.
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo. So Keith, all of these things are the same thing. And I'm not saying they're good or bad or anything else, but a lot of people are going to lose their Bitcoin from trusting in the way that worlds always looked like before, instead of holding it in self-custody. And they're going to try to get more leverage, and they'll get flushed out. And this has happened many times. This has happened through FTX. This has happened through a whole bunch of different things. And it's the same thing. It's almost one law in Bitcoin. Don't try to cheat Bitcoin. You'll end up being the person that gets wiped out, right? It's a cooperative network. And so, but lots of people were used to living in the other world, and they're going to try and get you to hold their Bitcoin in their custody and give you an interest rate that's higher to be able to do that. Right?
Exactly.
And you will bite because I can make more money. Right? And because you're still measuring in the piece of paper, and that'll centralize, and it'll provide risk to you.
And the cost of the banking system, right, to create the money that they can then give to you, right, is pretty much nothing.
Comes from you. It comes from you, right? It's a made up unit of it comes from the productivity that should flow to you naturally. It comes from you, right? It's so unnatural, but we so believe in that system that we're easily suckers for that system. And so you really have to understand this and hold true and what's true.
Jeff,
very well said.
What are your thoughts on XRP? Because that's another thing. I'd say our audience is largely people who are either Bitcoin or XRP, some combination of the two. But we've got a big XRP influence on our fan base for sure.
So please. read something I wrote on. It's called "Finding Signal in a Noisy World." You can find it on my website, jeffreybooth.com, where I lay out why Bitcoin is the only thing that will work long term, and it comes in layers. It's protocol. XRP cannot work. It's from a structure. I don't have time to get into it all right now. People need to read that paper over and over and over again to break that mindset. I understand why, if you own a token, why you would want that token to go up. I'm not talking about a token. I'm talking about a protocol that's emerging in layers. I'm talking about something that looks totally different, and there can only be one. It's not XRP. XRP is trying to use this inside governments, they're spending a lot of money in lobbying and everything else to try to make this into this. I'm not saying in a short term the token won't go up for a little while. What I'm saying is a completely different thing. I'm not measuring a token. I'm not measuring these things in a piece of paper. I'm measuring a structural change that is emerging across society, and you have a choice to cooperate with it, be part of it, or not.
So a few things that come off of that. I'll first touch this. So Abs from Good Evening Crypto, who runs a very big XRP focused or crypto channel, he said, respectfully, add me in, coach. And so I'll try to speak for you, Abs. Please fill in where I missed here. But when we talked to Abs, we had him on the show, amazing episode. But he basically, his approach was, this stuff's going to happen regardless, and XRP is likely to be one of the people or things doing it. So,
and to be clear, it's the system's attempt, right, to maintain this control.
This is exactly it. And so, yes, he's right. And if you're measuring in a short-term time window of pieces of paper, then if that system becomes a banking system and you can get yield in a Clarity Act to try to drive yield to this before it all blows up, there's a chance that some of this goes up in the short term. And that's why all the lobbying is trying to make this out. There's so much money at play, right? in this, but the nature of Bitcoin, and that's why I said read that paper, Finding Signal in a Noisy World, because the physics of how this works on a blockchain works. You can have decentralization, security, or scalability on layer one. Bitcoin chose decentralization and security. So it's the only thing that's decentralized and secure. Every other coin that chose scalability had to sacrifice either security or scalability. You can only choose two of three. So if you've chosen scalability, it has to be centralized. Ask yourself just a really simple question. Forget all this bullshit. Ask yourself a simple question. If you had a high-cost database, which is blockchain, that was centralized, why wouldn't you just use a database? The free market says you will not use a centralized, because the centralization is the problem, right? So Bitcoin being decentralized and secure, and most people kind of fought against it because it wasn't scalable. And they were right in the short term. They were right, just like if you looked at TCP/IP in the short term, it couldn't build the internet because the layers hadn't built. But because it was technology that protected against a nuclear war, and you could keep up communications, more and more people built on top of that technology and extended the functionality because it couldn't be taken down. That's what Bitcoin is. It can't be taken down. And what's happening is you have a neutral protocol that more and more people are building on top of, that are extending the functionality against all of these non-neutral protocols, centralized things. And the same thing happened on the internet, on the evolution of the internet. As the internet evolved, you had OSI, you had IBM, you had all of these other people trying to create their own version of an internet, right? So they could have control. But if you were inside a control system, you were still inside a control system. So the neutral one became the only one.
So Jeff, one of the questions I have to ask here is, if Bitcoin is the protocol for money moving forward into the future, does that mean that everything else in the world of crypto is completely useless?
Going to zero, all of it, in a long enough time frame, all going to zero. Now, it might go up in pieces of paper for a time, but against Bitcoin, it's going to zero, all of it.
Keith, you got something?
Well, because is that because there's no use for these other things as money? Or are there technologies, right, that can still be used here?
The question is the design element on top of this. If you have a centralized database, which is blockchain would be, right? What use case? So if you built NFTs on top of that and the rules changed, could your NFTs be worthless? Because the rules changed. Everything built on top of you're building on top of quicksand because the rules have changed. You're building on top of, if you hold gold in centralized, and somebody else centralizes and changes the rules, your gold becomes worthless or something. That's the point. It requires decentralization and security. And those are such high bars, right? Not a little bit of decentralization and security. Decentralized and security that nobody can stop it. And that is the thing that now you can build civilization on top of that because nobody can stop it. And that's the difference. And that's why it's so hard to put this in, because we've never seen this before. So you would naturally think, and I remember I've been in technology my entire life. And so if you think in technology, it's okay, this is old tech, the new tech is going to be better. But protocols are different, right? So the old tech and then the new tech, it would be a natural thing for us to think. And then once I was in the new tech and I had my money in it and everything else, I wouldn't want it to fail. I wouldn't want to hear all of this. If I built a business on top of something else, if I used Ethereum BRC token as my base for something else, I wouldn't want to hear this because I spent all my time and energy creating something else on top of something that could be taken away because it was built on quicksand. I wouldn't want to hear it, but it's true.
So what is your time frame for this? We got a ton of people in the chat being like, is this 50 to 100 years away? Not in our lifetime. What's his time frame? So
my time frame is right now. What I do right now, my life is actually it's emergent of exactly what I described. It's getting easier and easier and easier everywhere, because of the world I live and experience is this. I spend time in circular economies all over the world that are completely outside of this. I spend thousands, tens of thousands of people that I know this isn't stopping because they're built on top of it. What is the time frame for so I already live in that time frame. All prices for me are falling. They have been. My house since I bought Bitcoin is straight down. Energy prices straight down. Every price is straight down. It's the time frame is right now. The choice is, when is the time frame for you? And so if you ask because when you're asking that, it implies the question is, when does everybody get it?
That's the answer everybody wants.
Yeah. When does everybody get it? So you have knowledge right now that you could get it right now. And you could start right now and your life gets better and better and better because your money can't be stolen. And you're waiting for everybody else to go first. So what would the world look like if the vast majority of the world didn't know this and you did, and you put your time and energy into that? Would you be more valuable or less valuable in a free market that was emerging? You'd be more valuable because people don't know it.
Makes total sense to me. One thing that I want to ask you before I sent this to Keith before we started was,
and I'm going to have to, after this question, I'm going to have to go because I'm late for
Totally fair. Sorry, I just want to ask this. So you mentioned that Bitcoin is a protocol that things can be built upon, but a lot of these secondary crypto projects like Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, they were built because everyone believed you couldn't do that. Could you provide some examples in terms of things that are being built that actually make that possible?
Yeah. So, but again, so yes. So Lightning 5 years ago was You've heard of Lightning? Like,
Yes.
so now it's a scalability layer. 5 years ago, if you talked about Lightning, what Lightning was, it was a pet project on top of Bitcoin. And you probably have liquidity challenges, payments wouldn't work, maybe 60% of the time. So you had this hype cycle about Lightning, what it could be, and you had the vast reality that it didn't work very often. But the same thing happened in the internet. Evolution, trying, things break, all these different ideas, tons of people trying these different ideas. Now you have Breeze as a company. One of the companies we funded actually is open source technology and Lightning on top that uses Lightning, Liquid, Spark, Arc, and you have a protocol that is 99.9999 works all the time, sending money anywhere around the world at lightning speed. So Lightning 5 years later is a delivery of value mechanism already. It's exploding. And so now that extends the functionality. Privacy. You need privacy. Fediment is a protocol on top of this. Complete privacy of your communications and money. Complete privacy. You control that you can download, create your own federation. You can be your own bank, and everybody you touch cannot be surveilled by the government, cannot be surveilled by, and so these already exist, and they're Nostr, identity and communications. So you have a protocol stack that's moving faster and faster and faster because new entrepreneurs are coming in and saying, wow, I can use that, and build something entirely new without building anything, just utilizing the pieces of the protocol, which is exactly what happened on the internet. The explosion of what happens on the internet comes from the ideas that are imagined on top of it. But I get why, if you're not living in that space and you're measuring it through the noise of what people say that is, or looking backwards what it was 5 years ago, I can understand why they're still stuck thinking Bitcoin can't do anything.
Makes total sense. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It was an amazing conversation. We'd love to have you back again in the future.
We'll love to. Sure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Man.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Take it easy, man.
Super smooth exit. Oh, let's go.
That man had to go.
All right. Yeah, and so I saw some
leave button.
yeah, we definitely kept them longer. So thank you, Jeff. If you see this in the replay ever, thank you so much for your time. And there were some great questions in the chat. We didn't have the time to get to all of them. We obviously had a limited amount of time with him, so I'll pick a few of them and I'll email them. And he's pretty generous with his time, so maybe he'll reply. I can't guarantee for him, but if he will reply, then I will read them out to you guys on Tuesday when we chat again. But this was a really good question, John, and I didn't have time to answer it. This was going to be my next one, which is why I apologize to you directly in the chat. But the question was, if Bitcoin is a measure of deflation and AI is meant to be deflationary, what connection can we build between the two decentralized systems and artificial intelligence? That would have been a really good question. I'm sure Jeff would have had an awesome answer.
Yeah, facts, for sure. Yeah, well, that was awesome. A lot of the questions that I've had around Bitcoin, he definitely answered and continued to help me to see, right, why the Bitcoin thing becomes the standard. And I've seen, Ben, I think not too long ago, you sent me his conversation with Simon Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved about that conversation was they basically believe the same things and kind of don't agree on how they get there or whatever. But I noticed in Simon Dixon a little bit of he doesn't necessarily fully believe that it has to work, right? It's kind of how that's what I took away from some of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a fascinating thing, because I think when we look at the structure, right, the control system versus the free system, this control system will fight until its death.
100%.
And
because
yeah,
think of the sheer power. Sorry to cut you off, Keith, but think of the sheer power and influence psychologically and financially that is hoisting it up.
right. Yeah.
Subconsciously.
Yeah.
Right? Like people, I see this on a smaller scale all the time. I study people all the time. Like I've talked about how sometimes educated people are the most insufferable because they're attaching their entire life purpose to being an intellectual, right? And so then that makes it so hard for them actually to learn anything because they think they know what they know for certain. And so counteracting that and breaking someone's belief systems is so incredibly difficult. So it does make sense that if everything is a money problem, that the chaos would only continue to compound as you get closer to a crescendo.
Until bang.
And
Everything
so,
just blows up. No.
yeah. And so I think the question and timeline is, we tried to push him on a specific timeline, but obviously that's so hard to do because people can get creative. Much like he's saying how like the people who are building on Bitcoin are powerful. Think of how powerful the existing system is, right? In terms of the tools of psyops and all these things. And a lot of people were saying in the chat, like, oh, Bitcoin's down this percentage this year. Like, this is all bullshit. It's like, you got to zoom out far enough on time horizon. And let's say everything Jeff is saying is true. Would people suppressing the price not be exactly what would happen?
Exactly. Yeah. I actually just recently sent someone a graphic trying to I don't know how I'm going to be able to show you guys this. Okay, to try and like talk about the zooming out feature, because yeah, a lot of people that are coming into the game right now have no idea that this is what this looks like over time. But so I tried to like create these little arrows. I did it on my phone, so excuse my arrows.
That's good.
But you know, the moment that everyone is experiencing right now, where Bitcoin has gone from 120 something thousand dollars all the way down to almost $50,000, sounds crazy and scary. And this thing is a scam and it's being suppressed. Why would I ever own something that has to go through these periods of such incredible volatility? And then you zoom out and you look at how well this has happened over and over again throughout the time in the history of Bitcoin. And everyone here, most people here understand this, right? But you really realize, like, when you get down to that first little thing there, there's probably even another one that we just literally cannot see at all on the charts. But there's each of these times that this happens, where you get these 50, 70% drawdowns in the price of the Bitcoin, it actually over time becomes something that you can't even see on the chart.
It's a nothingness. It's a nothing burger.
And so from an investment perspective, if we have to go back to looking at it from the terms of the fiat system, which now I'm orange pilled right now, but
Go ahead.
you have metrics that help you to understand how that's beneficial to you to get that volatility, because it actually produces you an outsized returns in your fiat money system dollars. But anyways.
No, man, I think that's great. And that's such a very powerful thought exercise, is because we constantly live in the present moment and the news cycle is so short that when you just look at a zoomed out chart like that, you can kind of get desensitized to it. So I love zooming in and thinking about the percentage changes, right? Because that is more of the emotional side of it, right? Because of what you'd be weathering. That's why whenever people touch crypto, I'm always like, if you believe in my thesis and what I am saying, I'm not telling you to buy any of this, but don't call me when it's down 80% because I don't care.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm like, guys, you'd be crying way more if you knew how much money I've lost. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But and you don't see me freaking out. Right. And so I think you got to have some conviction for things. I'm not saying to put your money any place. We will never give financial advice, but I think there's a cost typically emotionally to being early on anything, right? It's either ridiculed, it could be financial over a short term. So yeah, it's super interesting. I got some good stuff in the chat here before we move on to the news and everything. We need another Charles interview. We would love to have Charles on again. I'm hopeful we can make that happen. We have a direct line, so we'll definitely try to do that in the next few months or so. Thoughts on ETH? I think ETH is a pretty crazy technology. Obviously, Jeff thinks it's going to zero eventually, but I still think in the short term or even in the intermediate term, ETH will probably do a lot of things from a technical level. The problem with ETH is just like trying to project how much of the appreciating of value for the ecosystem comes to the underlying asset. That's really hard to do. But I do think that a lot of things are already being built on that. And the partnership with Mr. Beast is such a cheat code, dude. Like, I think that the fact that we covered that super earlier on a Substack will age very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, if the rules around your NFTs can just change at any moment, Ben, it might have to go to zero.
Yeah, it might go to zero, but I think things will go up quite a bit before that happens. And then you're playing a dangerous game too of trying to time everything. But
well, and then this is kind of the thing that also triggers in my mind, is the same way that we look at Bitcoin in this, the same way we look at that chart and we zoom it out, and Bitcoin is going up and then it's coming down 50% of the time, and it goes up and it's down 50% of the time, and then crazy up. Could we experience that same sort of a scenario with the fiat money system versus Bitcoin, right? Because we experience that in the Bitcoin because we're coming from that system and over into the Bitcoin system. But could there be a moment where, oh, okay, Bitcoin becomes the standard, but actually you recognize that there's this volatility that you would have to go through? Like, do you really believe in this new system? Because now it's down versus this. You put all your wealth here, but maybe there's this other thing that you're looking at when you turn on the TV. You still got the stock tickers that are all in USD.
Yeah.
So you're going to be like, well, but it's down in USD. So even if my wealth were here, do I really believe in this enough? I guess your wealth wouldn't be there unless you believed in it enough. But my point is the way that markets move in terms of in the fiat normal system. This is probably what Jeff always comes back to, is like, but you're thinking about it from the wrong system, from the wrong perspective. But could the volatility also be in my belief of this Bitcoin thing? It's really what I'm coming down to, which, I mean, it already kind of is that way. People get shaken out when the price comes down 50%. They're like, oh, I don't even know if I actually got this right or not. So
Totally.
I guess that is kind of happening.
Well, it's so many things that are difficult to do. Like 3 things pop to my head. The first one is that, much like what you're saying, you're projecting from the wrong system, but it's impossible to project from a system that hasn't been created, for one, right? Like, these are all thought experiments. 2, I love how you see it is kind of on both sides of it. But then if we're understanding that the money to its core is the problem in the traditional system, it's a problem because of the theft that he says in terms of its printing, but also how everything is manipulatable, right? And so whenever you're benchmarking this external system in the current broken one, that's bound to happen, right? Because it's being seen the same way as everything else that is the underlying problem.
Yeah. I mean, his message is by far the most powerful message around Bitcoin that I've ever heard.
Yes.
Because it does take recognizing that we're only seeing things through the lens of this system. Even as Bitcoiners, even as someone who really like is orange pilled, it's not just the money part, right? It's not just, oh, like everything is going down in terms of Bitcoin, right? As far as prices, it's really the entire system around everything.
Yeah. It's just so many people aren't in a position where they can think like that. And I don't mean like philosophically, I mean practically.
Right?
Yeah. Because they need this money next month.
And that's his whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're stuck in that fear.
True.
So it's a fascinating take.
I think the approach is just to not be that extreme about it. Like, it is just to start.
Yeah. I mean, that's, yep.
Like dollar cost averaging, something you preach all the time, right? Why can't you just start to dip your toes in, and then across a long time horizon, you'll probably be very happy that you did.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, man. That's the one piece to it. I mean, always like, oh, Bitcoin's 69,000, whereas this is $2. Well, but you can buy a piece of it.
Yes.
You can buy a fraction.
Totally.
And what if that fraction is actually worth more than you
ends up being massive?
Like $100 and getting 100 units of something that, if Jeff Booth is right, is going to be worth nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I saw Jeff got hit with the question of how much Bitcoin do you need to live forever? We should have hit him with that question too. It's very, very clippable, but we didn't. He also didn't like the question that much because he tries not to be super clickbaity, but it's part of the game.
I mean,
go ahead.
And my question is too, like, I don't know, it just feels weird to me. Like, so do you keep acquiring? At what point do you stop acquiring Bitcoin? I guess you never stop acquiring the Bitcoin, but like, is just having some Bitcoin enough?
Yeah, he basically said that was his response. I think he did give a specific number, but I don't recall for sure.
And the only reason I think that I think about it that way is because I do still feel like you're still gonna, like, the 80-20 Pareto's principle is something that exists in everything.
Everywhere. And yeah, and I would say as things compound and go faster, I think it's getting closer to like 95-5. Seriously, dude.
That's
because
an interesting thought, this
because
technology
if the meta
accelerates
only
that.
exists for an incredibly short time, then is the 80-20 still 80-20 when tomorrow it's different?
And then SVJ in the chat just said something too. They said, but there's only so much Bitcoin. And that's a great point, right? Because there is only a limited amount of the Bitcoin. So does it infinitely distribute? And then if so, right, Jeff, then what does that world actually look like then? What does it look like if everyone is just like at the same exact level financially or whatever you want to think about? Dude, you know what I'm saying? Does that work?
So this is a good point too. Bitcoin is way too expensive to exchange. I think that means like the transactions, but
Yeah,
in US in dollars.
that's true. And plus, yeah, because when you're in the system, that money is going to the service providers of the system,
Yes.
right? So there, then that Bitcoin is circulating essentially,
Yes,
right? Which
totally.
is a part of that mechanism of how it gets distributed, I guess.
Yeah, and I obviously the ultimate scenario would be to like distribute wealth more evenly throughout the world, but that's also a logistical nightmare too. Like, how does that even take place? Because with exiting from the broken system, there's lots of people, ourselves included, that are at incredible states of privilege in terms of like how well we can move into the new system. You know what I'm saying? If that were to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I really wonder what does that world look like where everyone is playing in a fair system, everything gets distributed. Like, is there still a reason to do anything?
Yeah, it'll be fun to talk about. I think we got a bit of time before it happens, but there's some great stuff in the chat. Someone said have Michael Saylor on. I'd love to have Michael Saylor on, but I think Michael Saylor would hate me. Like, I don't know, man. Just like, did you see him freak out on that guy?
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, we could also ask him a lot of interesting. I mean, he's been asked a lot of the stuff around like, because for instance, if you truly believe in Bitcoin, does the centralizing nature of what he's doing help?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally. That's
Would
what
be the
Drizzle,
types of
our Dr. Sizzle, or D Sizzle, sorry, said. Michael Saylor will hold all the BTC and loan it to us peasants for physical labor. We could be looking at a system just as bad in an unconceivable way. Yeah, that's not like that crazy of a thought experiment there, because like, let's say even the nation state of America wanted to accumulate Bitcoin, like they'd have to do it through some mechanism like that. So I don't know.
I mean, that's like when I had that click in my head of like, okay, so this is why the banks are going to offer loans to the Bitcoin, because they want to hold your Bitcoin and then give you the fiat dollars back.
Totally.
Right. And so, and the thing that clicked for me was, well, that might work. You know what I'm saying? Like if you, especially if you're going to be willing to give me that money for free, essentially, because you want the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because the Bitcoin's going to infinitely go up versus those dollars.
Yes.
So I'll give you $1 million, pay me back zero.
Whatever.
Matter of fact, I'll pay you to take this money.
Yeah, because you'd still be winning off of a long enough time
I'm
horizon.
still gonna win, because the more that money's being printed, as he said, it's stealing from the person.
Yes.
So
yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. Definitely want to have him on again in the future. But anything else in the chat that you guys want to chop it up on before we jump into the news and the memes for the day? But awesome contribution, guys, throughout. I tried to work in your questions as I could without going too far off the flow of the conversation, but we got most of what we wanted to touch, wouldn't you say, Keith?
Oh yeah. That was awesome, man. We were excited before. Somebody said we're clearly super happy and like our wheels are turning. Yeah, today's been awesome.
This has been fun. Yeah, and I've re-listened to his book again the past few days. So I strongly recommend getting that book, because it's not that hard of a read, which is great. It was pretty consumable. I think I've read it once and listened to it twice, and I think the listening, granted, I listen to things at an incredibly fast pace, so maybe that's why it was faster. I listened to it like 2x, but it's only a few hours, basically. So I definitely recommend going to consume that. It's called The Price of Tomorrow.
Yes. I haven't even gotten all the way through it, but so far, fantastic.
I'll add the link to it in Amazon here.
Cool, man. Yeah, like it's cool to have guests on that are like,
in it.
Yes. And like a thought leader, not just like the head of a company or the head of this or whatever, like someone who's leading a conversation.
Yeah.
At the bleeding edge.
And naturally, if something is, and he could be totally wrong on all of this, of course, right? But even if the person who would be right in predicting these things would be seen as crazy, foolish, whatever. Right? That's the difficult part about being forward looking, right?
Yeah, I was when I was coming up with questions yesterday, I was like, I might have to ask him like, well, from listening to the stuff over and over again, I might think that you're crazy, Jeff. Like you might be crazy.
We should have asked how people in his traditional business life see him differently now, right? Because he was fairly successful in like Web 2 business, right? And then now coming into Bitcoin as his core focus. I'm very curious. I'm sure a lot of people who are so super successful in that system would be like, this is suicide.
Right. Yeah. It's probably like, this guy's crazy. Like, it's such a fascinating thing. That was another thing I wanted to ask him about. It's like, how do you reach the people who also have just been super successful, or why did it matter to you, right?
Yes.
When, you've already won.
Yeah. What was the breaking point?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he definitely has dealt with like adversities and stuff of that nature in business, like anyone does. But yeah, man, super, super interesting. I just added his book to the descriptions, the first link. So go ahead and give that a go if you want.
Fantastic.
But yeah, so this is from What a Sale Says. I never knew much about Jeff until today. I am blown away. Yeah, he's really popular in the Bitcoin community, but it stays there because they're all so informed on what he's talking about.
Right.
So whenever he's trying to talk to them, he's missing everybody else.
For sure. I had heard his name countless times before I actually listened to what he was saying. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool.
What attracted, so there's actually there's this comment in one of our first ever episodes, so maybe this is all some elaborate plant, but they're like, wait till these boys become like, Jeff Booth will be these boys' awakening or something like that. So it could have been a very long executed psyop. But then I had heard his names as well because a lot of people that I really look up to in the business world were already following and interacting with his content and referencing him on their content. And so that's always one of the biggest things that he actually mentioned, the whole proof of work, not just applying to something like Bitcoin, but also humans. That I actually really love that principle, because why I looked so deeply into Jeff was because the people who were assigning their name to him. So I was like, okay, this is worth the time.
Love it. Yeah. And the reason I feel like I passed up on his name so many times is because I had immediately understood it as the category of like Bitcoin maximalist.
Yeah.
And I don't listen to Bitcoin maximalists very often.
Well, to be fair, I think a lot of them aren't as...
They can't articulate these things. That's the only reason.
And I would say a lot of them are also not as open as Jeff.
Fair.
Whenever you try to challenge a Bitcoin maxi, they just talk to you like you're an idiot.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that you needed someone like Jeff to carry the torch, and someone who's empathetic, a little more compassionate, and also articulate, right? Who's willing to do this. Like when we got on, we basically explained our plan for the episode. It's like the exact example I gave was, I always want to send my mom your videos, but I know she'll have no clue. So let's try to get her closer to a point where she could participate. And that was the goal.
And he asked us, actually, right? So he started that before we had the plan to tell him, oh, by the way, we want to do this. He said, who's your audience? What do they know? What do they not know? And that's a huge sign of where he's coming from. Right?
He wants to make sure that everyone can participate if they want to.
Yep.
This guy is so biased, I think XRP says. Yeah, definitely. We all are biased by whatever we're attached to. But so his argument is not that he's not biased, but think about the power of the bias in the other system, right?
Which we all know is designed to steal.
Yes.
Right. So it then becomes, well, if that's the bias of the system that we're in, then we would want to try to shake as much of that as possible.
Totally.
And and maybe there is another bias towards another thing, but I mean, let me hear what that's about and why.
Also, whenever you get some sort of visceral reaction for something that doesn't like directly impact you, someone probably put that there, right? There's been work and effort to make you believe certain things, to go a certain way, to lead to a certain outcome. And so I've always been so fascinated for when people hear something that's contradicting to their existing beliefs, how and this is probably partially by design, they literally fight the person. They're like, you're an idiot. It's like, okay, why do you know anything that you know? It's because you're fed these things, right? So I've always found that so fascinating. That's why I actually love listening to people that I don't agree with whatsoever, to try to follow their train of thought and discovery that brought them to it.
For sure. And see why I'm wrong, right?
So this is actually really, really good, XRP. So Timster says, this guy got in early. That's why it's his only. So, okay, let's go through that lens, right? Why is your name XRP Timster? It's the same thing, man, right? And so So yeah, like you're maybe you're right in that, but does that make what he's saying wrong? Is the question that I would pose to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what we're trying to do. A lot of times people they think that everything is mutually exclusive. Is that how you
Yeah,
properly say it? Where they're like two things can be true at the same time.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
the world is like, the internet has made it so that it's almost impossible to have a conversation like that, which is one of my
Yes,
biggest
yeah.
pet peeves, dude, because whenever I talk to people, most people who have regular jobs, they can't have research as much as I have. So it's very hard to have a conversation with them because almost every time I spot their zone of ignorance very quickly. And I just can't, and we can't get past that.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
So it's like
mhm.
always come to a conversation with an incredibly open mind. That's why we preach the mantra, stay curious.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's because yeah, exactly. It's not mutually exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive at all. People have been early, they're right, and then all of a sudden they have some people won't even look at anything other than Bitcoin.
Totally.
But does that mean that what they're doing is wrong?
Yes. Yes. And also, I guess that people would say, okay, well, he now runs this Bitcoin VC firm, basically. Like he's now got a very vested interest in this, which is totally fair.
Mhm.
But yeah, completely fair and something to consider. But I wouldn't let that cloud your entire assessment of everything else that is said. And typically that happens all the time, like Jiang right now, right? Everyone's trying to say why you shouldn't listen to what he says. And I think it's entirely possible that he could be working either directly or indirectly with some sort of bigger entity. But either way, if there is some substance to the things that he's saying, just take that and leave what you don't like.
Fantastic, man.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yep. That was by far an incredible opportunity to do exactly that, to stay curious.
100%. That's it. That's if everyone just did that, the world wouldn't be as messed up, man, because when you penalize curiosity, you get farther away from the answer.
Facts, man. Should we dive into this news?
Let's look at some news.
I've got some news for you. Yesterday, out of nowhere, by the way, you're gonna have to talk about this one, Ben. NASA just sent the Artemis 2 mission off to the moon, or a journey around the moon.
Are there people on that thing?
There's supposed to be people on there now, Ben. Okay.
Interesting.
I say supposed to be because the internet is going crazy about this. So, well, first off, I didn't like the fact that I didn't hear about this until it was happening, right? I just was at the gym and then it was on the TV. I'm like, oh, well, people are going to the moon again? Like, how is that not something that we've been talking about when everyone's talked about the fact that no one ever went to the moon? And because of that, why haven't we been to the moon 60 years since? And now we're going, and it's just not
that big of a deal.
No one cares.
Apparently China's been going for a while. And that's why some people think that they've been allowed back up there from the aliens that live on the dark side of the moon.
Gotcha.
That's one theory I've heard floating around Twitter.
And so also it was April 1st yesterday. And it's like, why would you do that? Why would you do that?
That's very true too. Yeah, I know that's super, super weird, but I'm super excited for the emergence of all of this UFO speak that will definitely be released. Because I'm ready for those conversations, man. I know who to have on and I know what they want to talk about.
Right. Yeah. We have seen a huge uptick in that. What if all of this just coincides with some of that, right? Like, I don't know, man. It's a short journey. It's a 10-day journey. One of the things that happened was the toilet on it broke within the first few hours. Apparently the toilet was messed up.
They have a single toilet?
I think they have a single toilet. But
There's no way.
They got it fixed.
So they're all just cooked?
For a second, but they fixed it after a few hours.
Got it.
And I was thinking about that because I'm like, when these people go on these spaceships, you always hear this, these are the smartest people ever, right? But it's like, yeah, I guess that person has to be there needs to be a plumber on that thing. You know what I mean? Like,
they got to think about every possible issue.
It's like, whoa, you would actually have to be an insane genius to be on that thing.
Or if you want to go to space, you could also be Katy Perry or the wife of Jeff Bezos. Then you can go to.
Yeah, that one is that's an interesting one.
RD says, I watched the NASA channel and they've been talking about it quite a bit. So maybe we're just in a silo where we missed it.
That's fair. We are like these tech finance bros,
totally.
I guess. So
yeah. Also, always continue to bring stuff to us, guys, that may be worth looking into. And as we get more community elements in it, you guys can help us see our blind spots in research, and then we can bring that forward to the news section and the meme section too.
absolutely. So so people were totally like, I haven't watched any of this stuff, but people were like, oh, they never showed the people after it lifted off. Like, are the people on there? And there's lots of debate happening on Twitter around it all. But just wanted to share that piece as well.
Super cool.
Helped to design the Twitter system on the Apollo. Oh wow, that's crazy, man. And so moving forward, just some small items. You know, we were on yesterday, so nothing too crazy has happened. But U.S. ground beef has now hit an all-time high in the United States. Not necessarily a surprise, I guess, but not the best thing to see at the moment. We're obviously dealing with the fact that there is a conflict breaking out in the Middle East, putting a lot of pressure on supply chains, putting a lot of pressure on everything in that regard.
Totally.
So watching that. Another piece is we talked about a lot of the private credit industry and the issues that they've been having. Blue Owl has been one of the big ones that basically started to halt their redemptions from the fund. You've got a private credit fund. People are giving their money to it. The fund, then takes that money. They lend that money out to these companies. And now the thing is that the people who invested that money with them, right, they don't have the money, right? They've already lent it out to these companies. And that's how they're going to provide the return to the people that have given them the money to invest it. And so, of course, at some point, you know, the majority of that capital needs to be deployed if they're going to be able to present a return to their investors.
Mm-hmm.
And so if all of the investors try to ask for their money back at one time, well, the money's simply not there. And so a lot of these private credit companies have been dealing with almost a bank run in a way, because once one of them started to halt withdrawals, everyone wanted to get their money out. And
Totally.
so Blue Owl is one of the biggest ones. And basically we got the data on exactly what the requests were. And there was about $5.4 billion in an increase in redemption requests throughout Q1, according to the Financial Times.
Wow. Dude, that's AI and tech is also going to make it so hard to predict what is a safe investment too, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about it endlessly, but it's so damn true, man. And I keep having friends that work in big companies, and I always, whenever I get them an opportunity to talk to them about how everything's going in there, I'm like, oh, they're fucked. Because there's so many people naturally fighting what the technology can do. And I know I've said this before, but I don't think people like truly grasp it, is that if the incentive structure isn't aligned to maximize the use of this technology, every additional person that is in that ecosystem is incredibly detrimental to its progress. Like so bad. So like literally the higher the headcount for any company that could be using these technologies a lot more is a massive con, like a massive, massive, massive con. Because the PR from it, right? Because let's say you do the right thing from a business perspective, you're pissing off thousands of people and taking their money away, right? So the PR impact of that is going to be insane. They're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Right.
So there's gonna be a lot of really tough decisions being made from these things. But if you're a builder or you're a young person, look at any business that you thought could have been done better. You now have a serious chance. I don't care how big they are.
Love it, man. And from a practical perspective too, it's like Salesforce, as an example. What does Salesforce do? A million things at once.
Yes.
If you can just do one of those things that
Huge
they do better
business.
than them, then you can explode.
We should do like a how to find an idea episode 2, because I saw someone saying, I just need an idea. And I've been training my brain to spot them. So I see them all the time everywhere. I piss people off with how many business ideas I'll say out loud. We'll be everywhere. I'm like, that could be a business. That could be an app. Da, 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 da. And
then you'll rattle off the branding and it's just like the perfect brand.
I've just done it so many times, man. And they failed all the time. But now like this world was built for me. So I definitely want to try to share that as much as I can. But yeah, man, what other news do we got?
To finish that one off, the withdrawal requests at Blue Owl were at 40% of the fund's value, right? So 40% of all the money
40%.
Right, they tried to get out. Yeah. So that would obviously collapse the fund if that happened. So anyways, moving forward, essentially the major things that I've got here, there was a big DeFi protocol hack that happened. It was like a $200 million hack. And this was Drift protocol. So earlier today, this was yesterday, they said a malicious actor gained unauthorized access to Drift protocol through a novel attack involving durable nonces, resulting in a rapid takeover of Drift's Security Council administrative powers. This was a highly sophisticated operation that appears to have involved multi-week preparation and staged execution, including the use of durable nonce accounts to pre-sign transactions that delayed execution. So, don't have the technical details of what has occurred, but there was a $280 million hack that has happened here, and DB Crypto seems to have a thread that outlines this a little bit better, or an article, whichever one it is. And so if you wanted to hear a little bit more about the actual details, there's that. Or if you guys have any information about what exactly happened, definitely feel free to let us know in the chat. And next, I kind of just had some stuff from the war that's going on, or the military operation, if I may.
Dude, have you ever had Dippin' Dots, by the way?
I have. I used to love Dippin' Dots.
Because someone asked, is dehydrated ice cream the same as Dippin' Dots? I think that is, right?
I have no idea.
Dippin' Dots used to slap, man.
It's one of those things too where it's like the venue, right? It's either
yes,
the movie theater or like the ballpark.
Great association, because then it's like, yeah, that's so good for brand. But so what's going on with the war?
So a lot of talking, but last night in particular, Donald Trump gave an address to the nation. You had three leaders do that yesterday. You had Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, as well as the Australia Prime Minister, as well as the President of the United States, and they all kind of did very similar things where they didn't really say anything, but took up airways for 20 minutes from all of the large, news channels to basically say nothing that they hadn't already said. But Donald Trump in particular, throughout the speech, he kind of like talked about bombing Iran to the Stone Ages. A lot of people are saying, well, it's kind of posturing this idea of like, he's basically saying, look, we will, do this if we have to, but we would rather not. It's kind of what I took away from the whole conversation. But with that, the markets have been reacting, up and down, back and forth. Today, the S&P 500, I think, has been up to erase any of the losses that happened overnight. And moving forward, you've had a couple of things that have happened where there was an attack on one of the ministers that the United States has been potentially negotiating with, Iran's foreign minister, Kamal Karasi, who I think we've been hearing from quite a bit throughout all of this. He got seriously wounded following a strike on his home that also apparently has killed his wife. What we're seeing reported here is that Karasi has been overseeing talks with Pakistan to arrange a possible meeting between Iranian officials and JD Vance. So, that's a pretty big development here. Once again, this is one of the people that we've been hearing from throughout this, and he's now, dealing with a critical condition of some sort and trying to get through it. Also, this morning, we had the head of the parliament in Iran actually come out and make a statement about what happened last week. So he said, we followed the money. Last week, a handful of bankers and hedge funds met, decided to hold Washington's Iran war policy hostage, and then launched a campaign. Should he name names, is what he said. 70% of the internet is saying yes.
Yes. Shocker.
And then I realized, he had another one, a little bit of a dig here. He said, Ackman here, invite lost. I didn't even realize he put that. Uh-oh. So he's, I guess, kind of naming some names. But anyways, interesting thing that's going on here. The Iranian government essentially playing the game of using the internet as a way to row people up against their own government in a lot of ways.
That's part of the equation of war. Professor Jang talked about this as well too, right? Everyone always goes to bullets, missiles, all that stuff as to that's who wins. But when you're dealing with humans that are at the war, like there's so much more at stake and at play. So yeah, that makes complete sense to me. I'm very curious to see how the current administration handles like the political things of all of this moving forward. And like with JD Vance, like how would they? I'm so curious to see what they try to do to salvage his opportunity to win and be the next president.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I'm saying I'm so curious to see how they attempt to salvage JD Vance. In this situation to try to give him a chance to win the next time, because a difficult game to play right now.
I don't think any of the current administration is going to be able to make it. Rubio is the guy that they're starting to say could actually be the one to step in. But I mean, I think you're going to have a whole new set of people, like, which is what normally happens, anyways. You know what I mean? It's usually people that had come out of nowhere to some degree, and I think that's probably what it would look like for the Republicans, because you need someone to say, "Oh, I would never do that," and if
Yeah.
anyone was a part of that, then you're compromised.
Yeah, this is all unless they have some sort of bigger plan that we still aren't in on yet.
Well, I mean, part of it is, I mean, I hate to be this way, but I don't necessarily believe that there's just no chance that there's an attempt to change the way that the rules typically work, and you get an extension of the timeline of how long this current administration is in place. Now, that might be kind of crazy. It would be the first time in American history that has happened, but there's a lot of firsts.
We're seeing a lot of firsts.
that have happened right now.
Ever since 2020, the word unprecedented is like etched into my brain.
Yeah. A lot of people, in a lot of ways, man, the world really, really changed right there.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And the tools, like, obviously we default to whatever we know the best, but the social implications of it from social media and TikTok, like that was so perfectly timed. I've talked about that so many times, sorry, but it can't be talked about enough, because you got to like reverse back to how people change. And a lot of times, because there's so much going on, people are always here, right? But it's really important to reflect on who people were like a few weeks ago, and then be like, hey, what could possibly have given them the stimulus to change this much? You know what I'm saying? And it's the consumption habits too. And if you're a doom scroller and you're someone who listens to a lot of short form content, like pay attention to what the experience feels like when you are not the one watching. Whenever my girlfriend is doom scrolling, my brain wants to explode, because I'm not in it. It's not for me, right? And so when you're void of that bias, you're like, oh, this is totally not good for anyone.
100%, man. So those are the major news updates. There was one other thing, actually. So Galibaf, the head of the parliament, also released a full letter. This was this morning. It was this thing saying, you come for our home, you meet the whole family, is what he said. So continuing along these lines of like the informational kind of warfare that is taking place over the internet right now. This is kind of this letter saying, look, Iran is not a country. It's a civilization. This has been here since before America even existed, right? And when you come here, we've rallied, I think he said like 7 million people have volunteered to join the military throughout this time. If you come here, you're going to get met with all of them, right? And that's a large number of people. So anyways, this is what he's saying, you know what I mean? And so this kind of battle back and forth that's happening here on the internet, and this sort of, once again, people are like, oh yeah, go around and, you know, stick up for yourselves and this and that. And it becomes relevant because of something that I would like for us to react to here. We had, so moving into the reactions, Sneeko has been on this kind of crusade where he's, you know, going on the internet and essentially talking to people about their efforts and their participation in the war. I don't really need to play this whole thing or anything. I just wanted you guys to kind of see what the Iranian parliament's, the Iranian parliament members, speaker of the House kind of thing, is doing in all of them by kind of getting America to kind of separate internally, right? You got Sneeko, who's a very popular influencer. This guy doesn't necessarily know who Sneeko is, but he's spreading this message of we shouldn't be there and talking to U.S. military service members about it, right? And
Crazy.
Some of the things that we have going on.
Hey, man. You ready to go to war with Iran?
Yeah,
I'm ready to go to war.
I'm ready.
In the bed.
Nah, fuck that.
Why
Nah,
not?
I'm in the army, bro. You got questions? Go ahead and ask.
You're in the army, so what information are they telling you?
Are you on stream?
Yeah.
Never mind. Nah, I don't care. Go ahead and ask.
Okay, you're in the army. Are you going to be deployed?
Maybe.
Are you not afraid that you might lose your life for Israel and not to defend our country?
No. I signed up to defend.
But they did not pose an imminent threat. Rubio said himself that Iran posed no imminent threat on American soil.
When Iran starts threatening American people, I'm ready to defend.
They didn't. They didn't pose a threat.
They have.
When?
Multiple times. Whether we started out fighting for Israel or not, now they've threatened Americans.
When did they threaten Americans?
Now if I go.
So anyways, conversation goes on.
Wild concept.
Kind of doesn't have the answer. She's like, look, I don't watch the news. I'm in the military. You know what I'm saying? I'm just doing my job kind of a thing. But you've got these influencers that are going out and like pressing these people about, should you be doing this? Are you willing to go and risk your life for some foreign party? But who is Sneeko being influenced by?
Totally.
You know, so very fascinating concept, as you said. So,
oh, it's a wild thing to watch how the technology. That's also why like there's a potential reality where maybe like they did open Pandora's box with certain technological innovations that they couldn't have extrapolated to what it would become, right? Because like you can think, oh, I can control this, and then it grows beyond your ability to control, and then it kind of can be your own demise. Like that's happened in a lot of different places. So yeah, super interesting to see. But yeah, doom scrolling, definitely not a good thing. We had someone say, this is very timely, Keith, so I figured I'd talk about it. Was it, do you guys have a video that would help someone counteract the addiction to doom scrolling and its effects? So we have better than that coming out very, very soon. So yes, we'll be providing some resources to help you with that in a product that's coming very soon.
fantastic. Yeah, we'll have plenty of videos. Don't you worry.
Yes.
But yeah, so fascinating concept there of that being how the internet's being used for sure.
And how could it not? Because now that the incentives are there where that content will get views, it's inevitable. Right? Especially because Sneeko doesn't have a business off of his content. The content is the business.
There's probably some stuff that he's done in the background, but yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, I'm certain there is. But in terms of like, if I don't know what it is, it can't be his primary thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super interesting to watch, and he's taking a lot of risks seemingly in this content approach too. So it'll be super interesting to see the downstream impact of that. But yeah, who knows? More Monkey Business says Ben for presidency. Well, that's actually impossible because I'm Canadian, but I would never run for office in the existing system. That's for sure. Keith, I would vote for if I ever got a vote.
I would not run, but I will take a cabinet position for anyone who does. So
Cool.
If we got a good cabinet, if we got a good president, I'll assume a cabinet position if I'm offered it.
Cool. What else you got for me?
So some other things that this was actually just something that I thought was kind of interesting. So this guy was talking about Trump's speech. Jack here, he said, look, Trump's number is wrong. The strategy behind it is genius. China doesn't get 90% of its oil from Hormuz. The real number is closer to 50 to 55%. For reference, maybe he was talking about Iran that's selling 90% of its oil to China, but here's where the exaggeration doesn't matter. The point is essentially like he's saying China would need to get involved with the Strait of Hormuz to get their oil out of it, right? Because if it's blocked, then they get a lot of their oil from there, and they would send their naval ships to go and get it. And like he was saying, well, if they put their naval ships in the Middle East, then they would miss out on having their naval ships over in Taiwan, right? They wouldn't be able to have as much force over Taiwan, right? Is kind of the point that he's making. And the only reason I'm sharing this actually is because of one of the responses. And I just wanted to point out like how crazy it is on Twitter, man, because this guy was just like, this guy right here was like, smart. Only factor missing is that China is still getting oil from the Strait as they're Iran's biggest ally. Idiot.
Bro, there's so much of that.
And that has 80 likes, right? Of just like, why do you need to respond like that? You know, you've got a lot of people who, you know, this guy seems to take a little bit more of a calmer approach. Like, hey, let me correct you. Like, here's some things that I would think about as well, whatever. But this guy's just like, idiot. And then people upvote that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is going on?
That's the culture. I do think that social media needs a cleanse or like a reset. And that's why I think there will be new platforms that emerge, because I think there'll just be too much at stake. A lot like the older businesses that I was just talking about, where now since so many people, almost all these massive companies, they're publicly traded, right? And so they have to maximize profits.
Yeah.
Which is a huge con. Right?
Yes.
Because if I can spin up a new business that competes with them and I'm super content with making like way less money, where are the moats anymore? Right? So I think that like ideally the platform that I would want to build would have counterbalances for like echo chamber formulation. Ideally, there's a few things you'd have to solve to make the experience better that you and I have talked about a lot, but I think it's very doable.
Because then you're competing on the experience.
Yes.
And not the profit that you get or the addiction level that someone has to the platform.
Yes. And I think Rumble would already be way bigger if their product wasn't just kind of bad. Like, it's just not a good experience. Like, from the creator or the consumer standpoint, there's just so many issues.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably, honestly, one of the big things too is probably their monetization approach. Like, they probably should just charge for it to some degree, because the ads makes it it makes it
They're good.
unusable.
The ads are crazy. The ads, like, I feel like I'm gonna get a virus when I watch the ads.
Like, people hate YouTube because of the
Because
ads,
of the
and you're
ads.
making your ads even worse than
But-
YouTube's.
And also, it does seem like a lot of these platforms are cranking up the ads. Like,
Oh,
we
for
have,
sure.
like, we just turned on our ads and we turn it on normal setting for YouTube, and people are complaining about that. It's like, that's set by, like, YouTube does that.
Well, and I remember distinctly when YouTube started to do like the non-skippable ads for one.
Crazy. Yeah.
And then like the multiple ads, and you might be able to skip the first one, but then you get a second one, or it's just like a 15-second one, and then you get the second one, and then you can skip that one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, when that happened, like, guess what was available? Premium. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like,
I
it
use
made
premium.
sense. And now I do.
In the current form, it's oh, you do now. Nice.
Yeah, I
Nice.
finally got on the train.
In the current form of things, it is a good investment in my opinion if you're watching the kind of content that I am and doing it for research and all that stuff.
Right.
It also lets me crank up the speed faster too and do a lot of other things. So definitely love that. But I think everything's ripe for disruption. I think media is not immune to that. And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a swing at it at some point for sure.
Get it together, folks, because
Yes,
Ben's
sir.
taking a swing.
Let's go.
Yeah, I got premium once I was like, all right, I have to do research and I need to go faster. So both the actual speed, but also like the ads. I can't be
That was
waiting
my
for
whole
ads.
mentality. I was like, Keith, yo, you're a professional like information consolidator, basically, or distiller or aggregator, and like you're having to fight through the ads. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. You're right.
So this
So
is another
moving-
good point too. Sorry to
Uh-huh.
cut you off. On the same point, you pay for premium, but then still get ads from some of the creators. Yeah, so people put it in their actual content, which is also part of the game. Like, I get why people get frustrated by that, but people are also running a business, and we're giving so much away for free.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I
Yeah.
mean, you can skip it. You know what I mean? And
you
if it's a
tap the
bad
thing,
ad,
yeah,
I'm gonna
tap
skip
through
it.
it. Yeah, we'll probably eventually have ads somewhat in here,
oh yeah,
and
you get ready for some ads. It won't be on this channel, I guess, as much,
Yeah.
but at least not in the same way where you have to like.
we'll try to be more
Yeah.
tasteful and creative with it. I think one of the biggest issues is that people are very lazy with it.
That's my only problem. It's like, well, I'm just gonna skip your ad. Like, if you made a good ad, then I wouldn't skip it.
Yeah,
So you actually just wasted the time. You know what I mean? I'm obviously
Totally.
gonna reach some people, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm not watching that ad.
it's totally fair.
And now
Across-
YouTube has a thing where you can skip it. Like, a lot of times they kind of know.
Yeah.
And they'll give you the option to like skip ahead.
Totally. Very true. So Cross Central says, Ben, do you really remember what you listened to at 3x speed? That's cap. Well, I do 2.5, and I remember most of what I listened to. Yeah. Within reason, of course. But then
Yeah,
go ahead.
I only listen at like faster than 2x if I'm actively listening and taking notes. Because otherwise,
Got it.
I probably wouldn't be able to retain it.
But sometimes what I'll do instead, and this is just how I found success with my brain, is that I found that if I listen to something 2 or 3 times at 2.5x, I retain more than doing it once at 1 or 1.5 or 2. So what I'll do is I'll just re-listen to the same thing like 3 times at 2.5x.
Wouldn't you
What's
have been better off just listening to it at 1x?
Well, did you hear what I said? I retain more doing that.
How would you retain more by listening to it faster?
I'm saying more times faster.
By listening to it more times, you're going to retain more.
That's what I'm
Because you were
saying.
going to have to go back over it anyways, is what you're saying, basically.
Typically, yes. Like, I can pull out the points where that I want to investigate further, whether it's at 1 speed, 3 speed, I can pull
Right.
that out, right? And then if I'm going to have to go back anyways, that's why I think it makes a lot more sense to do it the way that I'm
makes
doing.
sense.
But yeah, everyone's totally different. I think that you should always see what makes sense for you. That's one of the biggest flaws with education, is that they don't really give you a curriculum and how to learn, and they say like this is good or this is bad, which is so stupid. Just try everything, right?
Yeah.
And if you like how this works, or if it works for you, a lot of times people are like, oh, you got to highlight or you got to take notes. If that works for you, fantastic. But there's no like rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, man. Absolutely. I had some, we're kind of moving into the funny stuff here. I don't have a whole bunch today, guys, because we didn't have a lot of time to prepare. Which is
Totally.
yesterday, but this one was interesting. So, Trump did a speech last night, and some guy commented and did a super chat for $200 on some stream saying, "Dear Trump, please say Bitcoin." So I'm assuming, right, in my mind, this is like somebody who's got
Poly
a bet.
market shit.
Yeah. And he's like, "Please say Bitcoin." But this is ridiculous for quite a few reasons.
Who gets that money?
One, who did you just super chat? Two, Trump is not monitoring the chat.
The chat. No, that's crazy.
So I thought that was absolutely hilarious, bro.
That's so good, dude.
That's insane.
That's absolutely awesome. We're dying.
Donated to ABC News, by the way.
That's it. Got it. That's so good, man. So,
all right.
Beating the odds says, "What football position did you play in high school?" I played running back and linebacker. And then the pink thing in my hand is a Tamagotchi. So for one of the apps that I run, it's basically Tamagotchi, but for hitting your daily steps. And so people seeing the concept really helps them grasp it. So I basically show the Tamagotchi in almost every piece of content that I make.
Yeah. Heard. Let me see real quick. Okay, so another thing here. This was from the producer, actually. Asipa found a little bit of a banger here.
What up, Asipa?
So overnight, we had the hack happen on this DeFi protocol. And Circle, I guess to some degree, was involved with like being able to stop them from distributing the money that they were going to distribute. And so this guy said, "This is the USDC team in Cannes right now, while the Drift hacker takes 3 hours to bridge and swap the entire 270 million. So
it's a great meme.
Yeah, they're chilling, smoking because apparently like there was a pretty slow response from their team.
I saw the same thing happen when all the Epstein files were getting released, when saying conspiracy theorists right now. They were like vibing. And this was a really funny comment. Did you see Esco said that was Jeff Booth sending the super chat? And don't like listen to it fast unless that helps you. But now at this point, if I watch something at one speed, it feels so slow.
I don't listen to much of it. The only time I listen to stuff at one speed is if there's like a visual element to it.
Or if it's like an artistic thing, like a movie or something, of course.
Yes.
But for information, you can train your brain to consume it faster. And if that's the purpose of the utility of the consumption, then that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that I'll rewind a lot of stuff, but I don't know that it, like you're saying, I don't know that that's a function of me listening to it faster always. I think sometimes it is.
Totally.
Sometimes literally someone says something and you can't understand it because it was just said in a way that didn't work at 2x.
Is this true? Pam Bondi just got fired?
Yes, Pam Bondi did actually just get fired. I forgot to mention that.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise, right? I think probably 50% of the administration is ever going to make it through a full term. Probably less than that. It's probably, I wonder what the data actually is. Like for Trump, if you work for Trump, what percentage chance do you have to make it the full 4 years? It's probably like 10%.
Dude, what was her big quote again? Was it
the
Dow? Yeah.
Is that 50,000?
It's crazy.
Yeah, she should have been fired immediately, but whatever. One other piece that I saw, this was just, I guess, probably an old one, but this guy said, never gets old. Paid leave request. Dear HR, I am suffering from the Rona and request you grant me paid leave for 30 days. Otherwise, I will come back to the office. Best regards, John T. And then the response, I didn't even actually see this part. The response was, after knowing that you're infected, we have immediately asked all other employees to work from home. Therefore, you can just come to the office and start working. I didn't even see that.
That's so good. Did you see what I sent you about the Polymarket post?
I probably did.
About the new COVID strain or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so there's this cicada going on. But I mean, I'm desensitized to that now because right after we got out of the lockdown, they started saying, "Oh, there was this strain,
Omicron, and all that crap."
Like, well, now what?
And then people were going back for like their 20th booster. It's like,
oof.
Trying to see
Trump's turnover is super high. Yeah, exactly, bro.
That's really funny. He how like someone said he likes to fire people. That's a his show, right? The Apprentice. His signature line was "You fired."
Yeah. And then like the Iranian military general was like making fun of that. Is that what you're talking about?
Someone in the chat was talking about it too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he literally made a reference to it. He was like, "You've heard this before, Trump. You're fired," or whatever, something like that. And I was like, "Oh snap! This guy's coming at him."
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, he thought he was dropping some fire. That was awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I think other than that, it's community time.
Do it up.
We had an amazing guest on with us yesterday, even though it was a Wednesday. We had Dan Whitmer with us, and you guys are slowly getting to it. Yeah, you got that linebacker build for sure, Ben, from what we can see.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had that in high school too. I was like 6 foot 200-ish in high school. So yeah.
A little bit of the mentality too. You seem like from what I've seen, you like to want to hit somebody. I can see that.
Oh, that's the only reason I played sports, man. But yeah, last episode was awesome. It didn't get the views that we normally get because it was on a Wednesday, and we never typically stream on Wednesdays. But it's definitely worth going to listen to. And then I'm sure you got some great comments here.
Oh yeah, well, just because of that, not too many comments just yet, but just wanted to let you guys know that this was an awesome episode and that you should check it out. And somebody said, New Vids 767 came through and said this video is so underrated.
Appreciate it.
And then Mark O'Connor also, I didn't see your comment because this was not too long ago. He said, I wish this channel was a stock.
Yes. And then Thomas saying, hell yeah, we appreciate you, Thomas.
What up, Tom? But yeah, so it is actually kind of interesting, man, where we're at, because we're still kind of into the void in a way. Like, you guys are awesome. You guys are with us, and it's fantastic to have this community. And no matter what, this community will always know you guys. You know what I mean? We'll never forget the 100 or so people that are kind of just chilling out with us every Tuesday and Thursday. It would be really hard to forget. There's even people that have already not been around that I miss and that I realize that we're missing. Akin.
Totally.
What happened to Akin?
Akin was the mainstay in the first episodes, and then he or she just dropped off.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be one episode, one thing that changes the dynamic of the situation. But yeah, we want to always express our gratitude to what you guys have made this space and this opportunity for us too, just to chop it up and try to do a lot more of what we feel the internet needs. But that's only really possible because of all you guys. So we appreciate you giving us our time. It's not something that I take lightly whatsoever. Like, I really appreciate all of you guys being here. And I love, like, think of the army that we can build essentially in terms of learning, right? Where you all go out on your own time and pull on the threads that we didn't have time to go down and come back with like amazing insights. Like, that's super, super cool. And we definitely want to, it's a big priority for us, to give you guys more opportunity to connect with each other. We're just running a mile a minute right now with businesses and stuff like that. But we're hopeful that after this business launch, we can slow things down in a few months and really do things right by you guys.
Most definitely. Yep. It's gonna be super exciting. Beating the odds said, all right, Keith, what politician would you be a cabinet member for? To be fair, it would probably have to be someone that I just already knew.
Like, personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because anybody else could be pulling some shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially as you get bigger and bigger, Keith, like, that'll be a very serious thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially because, like, you are like an amazing person to align with, especially politically, right? Where they would be all over that.
Yeah, man. I didn't think about it until you actually posed the question, but yeah, it would have to be like that, because yeah, otherwise, I mean, just imagine working for someone like Trump. Like, I imagine, like, the way that you have to become a member of his cabinet is like the same process that you would go through to like be in a gang, where it's like you basically get bled in. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
that's the whole elite class
to the gang.
Yeah.
Sorry to put it out there like that, but that's kind of how he moves. You know what I mean?
It seems like the whole elite power structure is governed like that too. So it's so fascinating, the whole thing. And it's also weird that we live in this world when I genuinely believe to my core there's more good people than bad in the world, like way more good people than bad.
For sure, man.
It's just people are super worried about the bad because it seems like they're running a lot of it.
And in a way, it kind of becomes the function of how bad people get power, right? Because they'll take advantage of all the vast amount of good people to get to that position.
Oh, of course. It's the easiest thing to prey upon, right?
Yeah.
Which is just super messed up. But I'm hopeful. I think that the light always wins in a long enough time horizon, and good always wins. So I'm hopeful for that. But Jason said, turn the show into an NFT. I'd buy some. So we already have a collection fully generated. We've just been waiting on the time to do that. So if you want to sign up for the waiting list for our digital collectibles, there's no guarantee of any sort of financial implications there. It's strictly just something fun to have. So it'll be minted at a pretty low price point, and you can sign up for that wait list down below. We'll get to that once we are done with this business launch. It's just been, this has been demanding most of my attention and time. And so once that's dealt with, then I'll shift my focus towards getting this live, hopefully within the next like 3 to 4 months.
So the show itself is not an NFT.
No.
Right? There's an NFT that will be existing on its own.
Totally.
That is not the show, just to be clear.
Yes. It's an NFT collection that is totally separate from the show, but we'll give early access to it for the people who are here. So if you're on that list, I'll just correspond with you if you want that. And we'll probably limit to 3 per person.
Somebody, how are you now, said most who get into politics get in it for all the right reasons. Once they get to a certain level, the men in suits show up and give an ultimatum.
That sounds about right too.
I can see it. I can see it. Anyways, let me see real quick. What else we got? Oh, I was going to share something that I thought was really cool, which was that you guys know about the hacker group called Anonymous? Anybody have heard of these guys before?
I've heard.
When I was growing up, like Anonymous was like the sickest thing ever. I don't even remember what it was that happened that made them so mainstream, but it was just like super cool. It was like, oh, these guys, they go out and they like are hacktivists, like hacking activists, and they expose like corporate greed. And I feel like I was in like middle school when we first had them become this big thing that like releases video on the internet of like, we are anonymous, like don't mess with us, we'll hack you type thing.
It was serious stuff.
Yeah. And I guess it could have been around like Snowden days.
They might have been involved with that.
Yeah. So when was he arrested? So anyways, so one of the anonymous pages, because apparently there's like it's not really like a centralized thing, it's like a decentralized group of hackers or whatever. So they have multiple different pages, but we made it to one of their pages on Twitter with one of our shorts. So Anonymous with 7.5 million followers, this particular page, they posted this whole video.
Bro, they could have found us.
Definitely. He even said also this dude. He said, maybe you'll listen to this dude. And so I commented, I was like, hey, it's me, this dude. But and somebody also, I'll give him some props. Scotty Scott said, maybe one day people start giving you credit, LOL. But anyways, I just thought it was cool. Technically, our little watermark thing is in there, so it's something for people if they ever were to see that.
But your page with 7 million followers, like that's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they do that all day long too.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
But the only way I can really think about it is like that's another 372,000 impressions, right? So
yeah, it's all just it'll eventually come back to us, and I believe that in life in general, like you put out more value than you take, and eventually it makes its way back to you. That's kind of been my thesis for life and business for a very long time. But that was super, super cool. And Keith is crushing it on the short form platform. So definitely go show him some love. Those are linked down below in the description. Go over to Instagram, as well as the Memes and Markets Instagram page. We're closing in on 20K.
We hit it.
We hit it
while we've been here.
Yep. Let's go. You've had some absolute heaters. I've been posting some stuff too. And what do you mean by business launch? Well, Cross Central, we're launching a business in 2-3 weeks. So we'll talk about it more when that time comes, but we've been working on it quietly in the background for probably 6 months at this point. And so we will be releasing that to everyone. And that's also a great way for everyone to get involved with each other too, because there is some community elements built into it as well.
Most certainly. It's going to be really cool, a lot of fun, an opportunity, for us to all come together as well and do some cool things together.
Yeah.
But so the short form game has been crazy, man. Like I'm continuously blown away by this idea that, because my whole thing was throughout this journey, I'm like, oh, I'm on YouTube. I'm only on YouTube. Like I'm like stuck on this platform and nobody really knows anything about the stuff that I'm talking about or that I exist in this world. And so having some of these short form videos go off and then people like reposting them. Like we had Joy Ann Reed. Shout out to Joy Ann Reed. She literally took my video and reposted it on her page. First, she just used the repost button on my post, but then she like downloaded the whole video and then uploaded it to her page. So I'm just on her page right now.
Wow.
And she's like a massive news analyst back in the day. I think she was on MSNBC or NBC, something like that. So anyways, yeah, it's just like pretty fast that happened, where these messages are actually also reaching other people outside of this YouTube community that we have here.
So this soccer player just liked your post. Paul Pogba. He's got 64.8 million followers.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know footy at all, so I'm useless there. But why this is also advantageous for us to have this following on Instagram is partially because that's the dude right there. It's partially because of obviously the brand awareness tool, but also, and I saw this because I've been growing theme pages on Instagram for close to a decade at this point, was that all their other algorithms within their app also prioritize larger pages. So like you go to a different place with DMs, right? So you have a way easier chance of getting a hold of the people you want to get a hold of, which is also awesome for our show.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. That was a big part of why I'm like, I'm just this YouTube guy, because it's like on YouTube you can't DM, right? So even if I'm
they're bringing that back though.
Are they?
Yeah, apparently.
Well, that would be pretty massive. I mean, it's something that separates YouTube for sure. Maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way. Because so it's like I got 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, but like if no one follows me on YouTube, they don't know. And even if they follow me on YouTube, how do they know that I'm the one reaching out to them?
Totally.
Unless I have a following on some other platform.
It's too logistically difficult for sure.
Yeah. So it's like you got to email somebody, or I can leave a comment, and it does technically in the YouTube studio, like let you know when someone who has more than 1,000 followers, I think,
something
if they
like
comment on you.
Yes.
But like that means they have to go into the studio app on their phone.
Yeah.
Right. Which, like, how many people are doing that?
No, 100%. There's a lot of love for you in the chat. That's cool. From Drew, well-deserved, guys. Deliver a lot of insight, not to mention for free. We've kept everything free to this point. We'll definitely start monetizing it better in the future, but we'll always be cautious of how we handle that. And then Carl said, "Don't forget us small folk when you're rich and famous, Keith." Don't worry, he won't forget us on his yacht. You're legit now. Damn, congrats. Yeah, a lot of love. Keith's crushing it.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Keith, don't go there. They only use you like they did with Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. You're golden, got to strike while Carl said, if you can get one more viral vid, then you're golden, got to strike while the iron is hot. Yeah, so that's also why we're putting out more and more content, is because it allows us to touch a lot of different things. And so right now it's a very mainstream audience. So we're also going to be very intentional about giving more value-driven content too, because it won't pop as much, obviously, but the people it will attract are probably a lot more likely to come in this chat and be a positive influence in it.
Yeah, and definitely not forgetting anybody here. This is the project that has been the most fun, the most meaningful, and most personal.
Totally.
That we've been doing. So
no, it's so much fun. Here. Yeah, and Lucas, we would like for the lowest tier of membership, it wouldn't be more than $5.
Okay, he's throwing out numbers. All right, all right, Lucas.
Say no more. It's set by the
audience. Yep. Yeah, so that's just some community stuff I wanted you guys to know about that's going on in the background.
Yeah. Do y'all have anything else before we wrap up? Yeah. So when we do the memberships, we'll have tiers. Like we'll have the lowest one that allows you to like participate in the chat, and then we'll have different tiers based on different things that we're going to offer. We're going to always try to do our best to give you like incredibly outsized return of value on your investment. And that's really how I view anybody spends their money, because when you start thinking about that every purchase is an investment, it totally changes, because you don't want to buy an investment that might light it on fire, right? It totally changes. Oh yeah. Sharp. Asip was right.
What do you say?
Spotify.
Oh yeah, for sure. No doubt.
We're dang close. Bro, we're about to release that playlist, boys and girls.
Check us out. We're on Spotify. All right. And you better believe that the link to Spotify is in the description of this video. And if you're listening, you probably like it because this is pretty deep into the episode. So I imagine it wouldn't be crazy for you to give us a nice little review on Spotify. So if you could do that, it means the world to us. It definitely helps change the trajectory of the channel. And we're at 94 out of 100, and we're going to be giving out a playlist with Asipa's music also in the playlist. Our producer in the playlist, he's going to have 2 spots on the playlist as well. So you're going to get a true vibe of what it is that we're grooving to.
Oh, 100%. That'll be absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And what was I going to say here? Yeah, Lorenzo, got to show him some love. He's been supporting us there super hard. He's like, 10 more reviews. Let's go.
Yeah.
So now we're down to 6. So we can totally get there. Who is the next guest? That's a great question. Monkey Business. Let me see. Do we have one set?
I'm pretty sure somebody's coming through. Oh, maybe not for Tuesday.
I think it's just us, but we'll make sure it's great.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, we got a fun one. Thursday. And then we also have, to get y'all ready for your calendars, we also have an extra episode next week on Friday.
Oh, we do?
We do. You're on that invite now.
Oh, okay. I'm on it now. I just accepted it.
Yeah, okay. I was like, I swear I put you on there. Just I show up? But I said, that'd be so funny if just I show up. You're not even
yeah.
But yeah, and so it's also at a different time. So that one will be Friday at 1 p.m. will be our extra bonus episode. It's just because the guest that we're having on is it's hard to come by his time, but I'm willing to bet you've heard of him before.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you've watched this, you've watched that.
Yes. So that'll be a super fun one. Honestly, I'm super excited for that.
Yes, sir. But yeah, so give us a review on Spotify. It'll make you listen a little bit, and then you can leave a review. And once you do that,
we're golden.
We're all golden.
Yes. And we appreciate you guys so much for doing all that stuff. I know it's annoying when creators ask you to do this stuff. It's just, we're putting in so much time and effort to make all this possible. And that stuff just goes such a long way because it's these tools, ways of gauging value. And in a very loud and noisy world, if you advocate for the things we're talking about or our approach to things, the best way to spread that message is through your engagement, like through these different things we discuss.
100%.
The hype button's also something that YouTube's testing out a lot too, which is why I adjusted our pinned comment a little bit to push that. So if you guys ever have your hype points and you're not using them, we would obviously love them on our content. It does a lot. Like if we got, say, like 100 people to hype our stuff, it would be crazy.
Without a doubt.
Yes. And yeah, and we'll be giving you guys more updates and details on the startup that we're launching in a few weeks, and I'm super excited for that. We've been grinding on that very heavily, so it'll be good.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
That's it for me.
Well, we appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us, and we will be live again next Tuesday. So definitely set your calendars. If you have yet to do so, subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications because we deliberately separate all short form content away from this space to protect the value of your notifications. So go ahead and do that, and you're just going to be able to come in and chill with us.
Pull up, hit that like button, smash it.
That's it.
Till next time.
Peace.
Make today the best day of your life, folks.
Peace. Let me try to do the outro card here. Let's see if it works. We've been fighting that. Let's see. Hold up. Nope. Yeah, so it's still no go. That's crazy. No, I know, but it's not even let me play period. Okay, so we're just gonna wrap it up here.